Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались з кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Lviv Spring Army sends its regards.
everyone, I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 310 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again in the chat.
And of course, we're going to be reporting on the past 24 hours of the war in Ukraine and the past 24 hours of embarrassment for Russia. Now, one thing that's always clear, it's always going on. Sometimes we don't show it on this channel every single day, but Russian propaganda and the spin masters are always at work in Russia, trying to both lie to all of y'all and also lie to their own people. And what they've tried to do has ended up backfiring and being an embarrassment on them because, as y'all may know, there is a man, we call him the Ham and Cheddar Man Don, whose name is Ramzan Kadyrov. A lot of y'all may know this guy. You see, his little group of quote-unquote mountain boys, the Chechen soldiers, the Kadyrov's men pretty much, were supposed to go into Ukraine and be the ones to get the job done. 10 months later, you can hardly find evidence that they were ever there, and the Ham and Cheddar man, who actually was with the units near Kyiv at the beginning of the war, returned to Chechnya, never went back, and then at some point he said he was going to step down and resign, but we've never seen him do that yet. So very interesting person just from the historical perspective of what's been going on in this war. And of course he is the point of many jokes on this channel, Don. He is a very stupid looking guy, Don. And honestly, I believe he is the most hideous person on the earth, Don. But he's done something today that's topped everything he's ever done. He went on to the Spin Master show, the reason why we brought him up, and he proceeded to do a show of strength, and he tried to do push-ups. It's insane. He can't do a push-up, and he did 35 push-ups this way. Here's the video. It's absolutely unbelievable. Alright, so, he's getting down on the ground, and here he goes. What is that? And everyone's climbing because they're scared they're going to get their heads cut off by this guy.
Like, yeah, he's already hurting.
Yeah. Oh my god! This is horrendous!
Look at his arm shaking.
Look, his face is red and everything. I cannot do a push-up at dawn. I do not go to the gym.
He had to feel the temperature of the room real quick. He looked around to see if anybody was laughing at him. You better not laugh.
He's like, I have to make sure that the fake paperweight soldiers I have can execute you if you do anything wrong, Donna. And now he's finally gotten up. Now,
time for a snack, Don.
Now, you know, Matthew, the Me Too movement, not speaking on the political side of any of this, but the Me Too movement never really took off in Russia, but I think if it did, the floor could file for sexual harassment, because this does not look like a push-up, but it looks like something else. Russia's finest, Russia's fittest. This is the man who will lead you to war. And I'll be honest with y'all, I'm not really that fit of a person either. And I know, for one, I probably can't do a lot of push-ups. I haven't even done any in a good while. And so I would never even do something like that in public because it would become clear I cannot do push-ups. This guy knows he can't do push-ups and then proceeded to absolutely violate the floor in front of dozens of people.
Could he like practice before he came on TV, maybe? Like, you can tell he's never done a push-up in his life.
Oh, man. This is terrible. Oh, man. He's in there. By the grace of Allah, Don, I shall butcher my push-ups, inshallah.
It's like the coat he's wearing is like hiding his bulk. He's actually he's pretty hefty, actually.
He's a pretty chunky guy. You can see that down there, the curtains do not meet the floor. They're not meeting. He's got some chunk on him. He might be due here soon. He might be about to birth a child here in a month or so. He might have to get to the maternity ward. And then on top of that, you can see this guy coming over here. Watch this right at the end of this clip. One of his little henchmen's diving in to grab the cameras. He's like, no one can desecrate our beautiful Dawn like that, Dawn. And he's going to probably try and delete the footage. And also, all of these people down here, they were filing up into the bleachers, but they had to all walk back down to watch this spectacle and absolute display of physical ineptitude before them on TV. Oh! I cannot do a push-up done. I have completely embarrassed myself in front of the public done. I will never live from this disgrace. And after this, it was actually said that he cried so bad. Also, I was looking at the World's Fair of 1964 before the stream. I know, kind of weird, but that's what I do in my free time. Anyways, we're going to be going all the way over here and all the way down to Chechnya, because after he cried a little bit after that presentation and a terrible display on TV, he then ran back, said he would resign. Of course, I'm kidding about all this. He said once again that he would resign from being the leader of Chechnya, and then went and hid in the presidential palace. Which, oddly enough, Matthew, I think the presidential palace is bigger than the mansion that Putin has on the sea.
It looks pretty damn big.
It looks pretty big, doesn't it? It looks huge. Well, let's go find Putin's little beach resort, which is somewhere around here. And I know we'll be able to see it. That's not it. Hang on. I know it's somewhere on this...
Let me just say while you're finding that, I got to respect some of the people's honesty on this poll, because actually more people than I thought are saying no, but we'll have to cover that a little bit later.
And we thank you so much for answering the poll honestly. But moving on, where the hell is it? I can't find it. It's somewhere on this coastline. I know it. We saw it before. But I cannot find it right now. Oh, come on. Or did we make it all the way up to... Hang on. Maybe it was just a little bit south of Novorossiysk. I think it was, if I remember correctly. You know, I'm not going to have y'all looking at me traveling down the entire coastline of the Caucasus mountain range. Or the Caucasus mountain range. Not the Caucasus, that's another thing, that's an American political ordeal. But moving on from that, I think the Chechen palace in Grozny is bigger and larger than Putin's mansion, or palace, I guess you could call it, that's on the coastline. And when you think about that, that's actually kind of bizarre, considering that Chechnya really has no real wealth. Like, look at this. Like, you can actually see it from an aerial view. Nothing but manicured gardens, lawns around this palace. It's unbelievable to see what kind of, I guess you could say, upkeep there probably is just to this building alone, and how much ground it takes up in the middle of Grozny, which is the biggest town in Chechnya. You gotta.
It's almost like they were going for a White House style, architecture on that building too.
I'll be honest, it seems kind of like a cheap Palace of Versailles. It seems like a Palace of Versailles knockoff, in a way. Or, wait a minute, hang on. This looks oddly familiar. You know, like, look at it. The central dome, the 4 little towers on the outside. That looks very similar to the Reichstag. Doesn't it?
I don't know.
In a way, I know that's making it too many connections. That is too many connections. It doesn't have really a lot of, I guess you could say, reason for it to be inspired from that, but it does share a little bit of a semblance. Anyways, moving on from that, once again, our boy, the ham and cheddar man, done. He's making a disgrace of his people, done. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from inside of Russia. That's all we have today. That was good enough to ensure that the brain rot would carry on, and that everyone could get their nice dose of we'll call it in Russian terms, sifilista, which means Russian brain rot. And so we're now going to be moving on from Russia and from Moscow, and we're now going to be covering the missile attacks that have occurred over Ukraine last night. One of the largest that we've seen so far in the war, and according to the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, the Russians fired something like a total of 100 of both ballistic and cruise missiles into Ukraine. And interestingly enough, the Ukrainians did fairly well. However, they weren't able to intercept them all, and luckily enough for this family, the Ukrainians don't always have to rely on their competence to make sure that the Russians cannot achieve their aims. Sometimes the Russian incompetence will ensure that anyways. This is a missile that failed to explode, but went right through the front door of someone's house in Ivano-Frankivsk. I gotta say, that's terrifying as hell. These people were just one split second away from being obliterated by a cruise missile, and you can tell that this thing was clearly aimed at their house. Otherwise, why did it go through their front door? And it didn't explode. For some reason, the detonator inside of this missile did not operate, and it did not explode. And so now there's a massive dud sitting in their lobby of their house, and they're just waiting for it to be removed by a bomb squad while they've left the house in the meantime. Very bizarre, and probably one of the craziest things we've seen. I can't really believe this, man. Honestly. It's very lucky for them to have survived at all. We're now going to be
I was thinking back. You remember when that missile went into somebody's living room?
Yeah.
Way back at the beginning of the war.
Yeah.
Like it's not quite as bad as that, but it's getting pretty close.
It is. That's always just haunting and terrifying to see, but it's lucky to know that it didn't go off and those people survived. Moving on from Ivano-Frankivsk, of course, the town that is always targeted in every single missile attack is Kyiv. Kyiv is the center of Ukraine in multiple forms. It is the largest town in Ukraine, well, it's the largest city in Ukraine. It is the capital of Ukraine, and it has the most political significance in this war. And the Russians, of course, threw every single missile they could muster directly at the capital. And the Ukrainians shot a lot of them down. Here's a first video of one of the missiles being shot down on their way to Kyiv. We see the missile get hit right there and explode. One missile down that we can confirm on film. Moving on to the next clip, we can also see another one being shot down. And interestingly enough, I gotta share with y'all a cool story about this one. I actually got Operator Starsky on the phone last night. We were texting on WhatsApp, because that's how we talk. And he is in Kyiv right now, and funnily enough, Matthew, the unit that he's actually from is the 4th Operational Brigade. And the 4th Operational Brigade, after the fights around, I guess you could say, the Kharkiv area, the Chuiv area during that offensive, they got moved back up to Kyiv as part of I guess you could say, of a defense force that makes up the city. And so this is actually Operator Starsky's unit shooting down a cruise missile with an Igla manpad.
Oh,
so
nice.
Here's the video. We see him spooling up the Igla. You see it fire. And the missile's on its way right behind the missile. And they shot it down. That's
somebody Starsky back there going hysterical.
we need Starsky like sitting there. Oh my god, this is crazy. But anyways, it's great to know that his unit is in Kyiv defending the city, and that his unit and himself are able to pretty much keep in constant communication with each other, and also a great claim for the 4th Brigade to get. With that, we're now going to be moving on to the next video from Kyiv, showing once again that a Russian missile was shot down by the Ukrainians for a 3rd time on film today. And this one is the craziest. Here's the video. The missile flies over. You see our old boy Manpad man. He fires the Manpad. It's on his way, and boom! That thing blew up like the freaking Death Star. Look at that. Gosh. And the hype begins immediately.
Dang, they're going nuts.
They went insane. That was super cool, though, and that was insane to see that they were able to shoot it down. We saw, I believe, 2 months ago, the first ever cruise missile to get shot down by a manpad, and now the Ukrainians do this on a daily basis with manpads, shooting down cruise missiles like this. So while it's not insane to see, and not the first time anymore, it's like the dozenth time, or several dozen time that's happened. For these guys, I think it must have been their first time, because look at this guy after the missile explodes. He just goes running into some direction into oblivion just out of hype. So the missile fires, it explodes. They cheer, and he's gone. He's going somewhere, but we don't know where.
He's gonna go check out the explosion firsthand.
He's got a YouTube camera crew behind him, and they're gonna go up, oh my god, look at all the heckin' damage! You know, hit the thumbs up, this is sponsored by Nike, or something like that. By the way, we don't represent Nike at all. The attorneys are already on their way. Anyways, super cool to see that they were able to shoot down 3 cruise missiles on film today, and for the first time ever, I believe, out of all of the missile attacks that have ever hit Kyiv, the situation is not that bad. According to the Ukrainian air defense system, oh my gosh, thank you, Duncan. According to the Ukrainian air defenses around the city, they were able to shoot down a majority of the missiles, and only 3 people out of this massive, overwhelming missile attack were injured. 0 people were killed. For one of the first times that I've ever heard, almost always, 1 or a couple of people have been killed in Kyiv every single time one of these cruise missile attacks was levied against their town. And almost every single time, their energy infrastructure was wrecked thoroughly. This time, only 3 people were injured, no one was killed, and the mayor of Kyiv, which is Vladimir Klitschko, the former heavyweight champion, warned of potential power and water outages. Not guaranteed ones. They're not going to be the massive issues that they were a while ago. This time, the missile attack came, and the Ukrainians won. They actually won against the missile attack. First time ever. This is the first time I've ever seen no one get killed in one of these missile attacks, and the first time ever recently, ever since the Russians started targeting the power infrastructure, that none of the power was completely knocked out for a long time. And this is the greatest thing that's ever happened in terms of the battle that's been going on over Kyiv for the defense of the skies, because this shows that apparently the Ukrainians have strengthened their air defenses so well behind the lines around their key cities like Kyiv that no longer can massive Russian cruise and ballistic missile attacks actually break that city and get through and end up killing people. They have finally done it for the first time ever. Massive news. With that, we're now going to be looking into the town of Kyiv, because during the attacks from these missiles today, actually it seemed that this was a little bit before this, so I'll say that. The video came out today, but this may have been made a little bit beforehand. A couple of people wandered around the capital city of Kyiv and asked the Ukrainians what they were thinking right now of the war and everything going on around it. Usually, whenever we see these kinds of videos, they're presented by 1420 and they're inside of Russia, and they're asking Russian people what they think of certain things going on and such things as that. I want to take this moment to promote a channel that is operating in Ukraine and did some very good reporting work here. The channel is called Headshot. They have 3.48 thousand subscribers, and it appears to be a group of 2 ladies that are going around and interviewing Ukrainian citizens and asking them questions about the war and what's going on around there. Now, this kind of reporting on the Ukrainian mindset is almost non-existent. The only kind that we see of this is always from the Russian perspective from a channel like 1420, who also does a great job. But I believe that these people should be encouraged to keep doing what they're doing and showing us the mindset of the Ukrainian people. And so I would highly encourage that y'all go to the channel Headshot. You can find this link right here and go subscribe to them, because the work they're doing is pretty profound. And also, it was profound enough that we're actually showing their video on this channel. And so with that, let's take a look at the interviews they had and what people are thinking.
Каждый понедельник пугают.
Ну, хоть у меня больше половины родственников в России, но я ненавижу.
В Европе не найдешь такі ціни, я скажу. Ви хотіли вот мирних переговорів з Росією? А ви хочете мирних переговорів, скажіть?
С Россией?
Хотели ли бы вы переговоров вот сейчас?
Каких переговоров?
Мирных с Россией.
С кем? В вашем понимании мир это что?
Не перекрутить то, что
Боже упаси.
Документы спросить.
А мы вам сейчас покажем документы. Здравствуйте, я Наталья Дуброва.
Привет, друзья, я Татьяна Комарова. Мы с Наташей живем в Киеве, идет уже какой, 8-9 месяц, 9 месяц войны. Сейчас как бы у нас в Киеве тоже все очень непросто в бытовом плане. Пропадает свет, пропадает вода, то есть бытово все это очень неприятно, очень тяжело. И, конечно, накапливается очень сильная усталость, когда, эта проклятая война закончится.
И вот вы нам пишете, очень многие пишут, что типа пора садиться за стол переговоров, нужны переговоры. И вот мы решили спросить вот у обычных людей, у украинцев, хотят ли они переговоров. На самом деле Зеленский отказывается ли от переговоров, или народ имеет такое мнение. Вот нам самим интересно, решили пойти спросить, узнать.
Вы бы хотели вот мирных переговоров с Россией вот сейчас?
Нет.
А вот объясните позицию, потому что нас смотрят люди из разных стран, они пишут, типа, давайте переговоры, и говорят, что, типа, Зеленский так хочет, а народ, типа, хочет переговоров.
Не хотелось бы, потому что очень много людей уже погибло. Этого всего уже не вернуть. Детей сколько погибло, наших женщин насиловали. Не хотела бы. За одну бучу всех поубивать надо. сколько животных погибло, сколько мои соседи, вот я в этом доме живу, сколько они подобрали животных, и животов-инвалидов, и ставят их, и возвращают, и психику, и все. Очень больно на все это смотреть, я бы не хотела.
А еще такой вопрос. А
Да.
вот вы думаете, вот даже если Украина, ну, гипотетически, я не говорю, что это так будет, что подпишет переговоры с Путиным, да, допустим, Путин будет выполнять их?
Конечно, нет, ему веры нет, вы что? Я не знаю, я ему не верю. Ну, потому что, ну куда, какие могут быть? Он же все обманет, вы же понимаете.
Ну, не, мы понимаем, мы просто для зрителей это мы-то понимаем, да.
Обманет, ему веры нету. Вот, а зрителям беречь себя и слава Украине. Пускай не отчаиваются.
Спасибо. Спасибо.
Вам спасибо, девочки, и вы себя берегите обязательно.
Спасибо. Спасибо. А хочете
And so we can see that the first lady that they've interviewed is clearly not in any kind of stance or mindset that they actually should start peace talks. And you can see that this whole entire idea, at least on this one instance, that is being propagated by people online saying, oh, you know, it's tough for the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians really want to give up, but the Ukrainian government keeps pushing them on. And you see in that one instance, it's not the case. So now we're going to the second lady, and we're going to see what she thinks about that idea as well.
мирних переговорів, скажіть?
З Росією?
Да.
Ні, взагалі ніяких.
Ніяких.
А про що можна говорити з такими людьми?
Дякую.
З такими людьми, мені кажеться, не то, що говорить, а...
Дякуємо. Ми просто нас дивляться люди з різних країн. І вони пишуть, типа, переговори, народ хоче переговори, бо вони втомилися, світла нема, всього нема. І ми вирішили
Ви
попитати.
знаєте, щоб вигнати цю нечість, ми згідні без води і без світла сидіти, тільки щоб вигнати. Я теж так вважаю.
And so we can see right there, the second lady was actually a lot more concise, Matthew. She wasn't taking any of the crap. She's like, no negotiations, just keep going. And right now, it's 2-0. 2 Ukrainian citizens that have been interviewed think it's totally fine for the war to continue. They will go through any hardships, including a lack of water, which Matthew and me can completely understand. And that's actually something pretty tough to deal with. It always sounds simple, but when you have no water in your house and there's really no way to take a shower or get any drinking water or anything, that's actually a pretty big deal. And it appears that that lady still doesn't have any running water. And she's like, we will do without it until the war is over. And so you can see right now, there is no real support in Ukraine, at least in the 2 people that have been interviewed, for peace negotiations and peace talks. They are perfectly fine with dealing with what they're having to go through right now for the war to continue, so that way Ukraine can retake its land and they can right the wrongs that have happened over the past 8 years. So once again, 2-0. Now we're moving on to the third person.
Світла, без води, без нічого. Але б тільки їх тут не було, цих тварюк. Це просто тварюки. Тварюки.
Ви так думаєте?
Конечно,
Да?
конечно.
Тоже не хотите переговоров?
Ну, переговоров нет. И вот сейчас в данной ситуации, как Путин, допустим, нам указывает, чтобы, допустим, там Крым остался,
Донбасс?
Донбасс остался, Херсон остался. Мы не хотим на этих условиях. А вот когда мы придем к 91-м годам, к границам, вот тогда мы поговорим.
Скажите, как у вас на базаре говорят?
All right, so now we're returning to the first lady in the video, but right now it's 4-0. Out of all 4 people that have been interviewed, none of them are even showing an indication that they would be open to the peace talks in the terms that Putin is laying out. And once again, we have to add a little bit of context here. They're not talking about peace talks where the terms are amiable. They're talking about the peace talks and the conditions that Putin has just laid out recently and has been laying out during the entirety of the war. That the Ukrainians have to completely demilitarize before they even enter peace talks. They have to pretty much give up. They have to strip themselves of everything. They have to never try and retake the Donbass or Crimea, and only then can the peace negotiations begin. Those are the terms that they're talking about, and we can see that 4-0, no one wants it. So we're moving back on to the first lady again.
Матом?
Да, я не буду так говорить.
Не, ну правильно, потому что придется потом запикивать. Да, да.
Я так не скажу. Еще воспитание какое-то есть.
Вы лично хотели ли бы вы переговоры вот сейчас?
Каких переговоров?
С Россией.
С кем?
С Россией.
Так они ж напали, какие с ними могут быть переговоры? Ну вот вы сами подумайте.
Не, мы
Вот
понимаем,
если
это для
если-
зрителей.
Ну да, если к вам домой пришли и у вас отбирают одну комнату, вы будете как с ними? Переговоры вести или выгонить?
Не, ну мы выгоним, конечно.
Ну, вот так.
А скажите, а у кого-то есть
So
родственники?
now it's 5-0. The guy was like, if they took your room, would you just deal with it? And they're like, no, we wouldn't. He's like, so that's what it is. 5-0 right now. Not a single person has even been entertaining the idea.
В оккупации.
Я с оттуда.
Вы оттуда? А вы
Я
откуда?
Да, с Луганской области. В 2014 году у меня война началась.
И давно вы переехали сюда?
Ну, с 14-го.
С 14 года, да. А вы поддерживаете какие-то отношения с теми людьми, вот, которые остались в Луганске, какие-то?
Ну, мама там, да, моего мужа мама осталась, а так все выехали.
А какая у нее позиция?
Ну, не такая, как у нас.
Да?
Да.
А вы общаетесь?
Общаемся.
А муж общается?
Муж общается.
И что он говорит по этому поводу?
Ну, что? Мы стараемся на эту тему не общаться особо, потому что, все-таки родная мать, это же, знаете, как...
да. А нам говорили вот люди из Донбасса, что очень большая ошибка Украины, что все-таки нет украинских каналов там, что не сделали. Что это самая большая ошибка. Конечно. Что из-за этого может быть и у вашей свекрови тогда. Вы тоже так думаете?
Я так думаю.
Кстати, по поводу цен. $1 это 40 гривен. Ну вот вы видите цены.
Holy moly! Wait a minute. $1 is 40 hryvnia. Hopefully hryvnia. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. So look at these prices. A pair.
I know.
A pair is like $2.
Wait, one pair?
Wait a minute. Hang on. I think those are actually those look like lemons.
По поводу цен.
That is a lemon. Yeah, that's a lemon right there. So it looks like $2, but I don't know. Is that like per pound or is that per lemon?
That's got to be per pound.
That's probably per pound. How much does a pound of lemons on average go for in the U.S.? Pound of lemons, price average. Because when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. So let's see here. So it is it says either $3.92 or $1.96 a pound. So it appears that on the high end, it is half the price of the normal price, the high-end price of pears in the U.S., and about on par with the lowest price per pound. Well, I mean lemons, sorry. It's on par with the lowest price per pound of lemons here in America. So also it's doing, wait a minute, hang on, it's doing it per kilogram. I forgot. So it's even better because I believe 1 kilogram to a pound. So 1 kilogram is actually worth 2.2 pounds of lemons. So it's $2 for pretty much 2.25 pounds of lemons. That is actually really good because that would cost about $5 here in the United States. Man,
That's actually very good.
They got some value prices in Ukraine. If y'all want cheap produce, y'all are gonna have to take a flight out to Ukraine because they've got it out there, and they even got mostly ginger. Like, this is a fine store. I mean, like, they got everything you want out here.
$1 это 40 гривен. Ну вот вы видите цены. Ну, в принципе, такие цены в магазинах. Ну, по-европейски, по нашим зарплатам не очень.
В вашем понимании мир это что?
У нас канал, нас смотрят люди из разных стран. И вот они пишут, типа, украинцы устали, мы вам желаем скорейшего мира и всего остальное.
Ви нехай нам пожелають перемоги, не міра.
Не, мы это понимаем, мы просто спрашиваем, что думают.
Тобто, дивіться, так скажімо так, таким чином. Якщо ви за мир чи за перемогу, то в якого яке є поняття? Якщо у вас поняття за перемогу, то ми за перемогу.
Понятно, то есть подписание мира, народ Украины, вот вы в частности, вы против.
Я против.
Все. Спасибо.
6-0.
Важно было услышать.
Все любого человека спросите, даже старика.
Да, мы думали, что, может, какие-то есть другие
даже
мнения.
Детей.
Слушайте, а если будут нам писать, вот, что люди боятся сказать, они по-другому на самом деле думают?
Никто никого не боится. У нас свобода слова, мы все, то, что мы думаем, то мы и говорим.
Это правда? Почему не приставать к мужчинам-то?
Не думаю, что здесь кто-то боится. Каждый понедельник пугают.
Я, кстати, даже не думала.
Income is 500 a month in Ukraine.
Yeah, it is incredibly low. Ukraine is, relative to European standards, quite poor. Their GDP is incredibly low. Their average income I guess you could say the GDP per capita is quite low. They are a quite poor country, and that's why you see that the prices are also incredibly low as well, because if it was a normal American price, people probably wouldn't be able to afford food in Ukraine. So,
well, why is the income for people so low?
It's really because Ukraine has never really been able to rebound or find an industry that makes them gobs of money. Like if you look at the United Arab Emirates, they found their success in oil, and a lot of Middle Eastern countries find their sole economic success to be built on oil. Ukraine really only has agriculture, and agriculture in the modern world is an industry that just doesn't really make a lot of money. It's not something that your nation will become wealthy off of. And considering that every other industry is somewhat small in Ukraine, except for, I guess you say, the weapons technology industry due to their legacy from Soviet times, is somewhat large. Everything else is not really that grand. So there's not really a lot of money-making industries that make high-end, expensive stuff that people in the West would buy. And so there's not really a lot of, I guess you could say, income nationally for their entire nation or for the individual.
Now, I'll tell you, after this war is over, the West and the United States needs to work on setting them up with more lucrative industries, because Ukraine could be a really good ally because they're such a good fighting force.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Not just a fighting force. There are 40 million people inside this country and a vast untapped amount of resources as well that could all be used both for them to find themselves some jobs and make themselves some money, and for us in the West to have more consumer goods at a cheaper price that can be sourced from an ally. It's a win-win for everyone. And that's why I'm always talking about, during this entire war, the end. It ought to be very crucial and very important for the West to start working on improving Ukraine's economic situation going forward and pumping some tens of billions of dollars most likely into their economy, so that way in the long run it's a massive return, much like South Korea was. We pumped billions of dollars into South Korea, and look at where they're at now. They make the North Koreans look like a joke, and back in the day it was the complete opposite. So with that, we're going to let this video continue, and we can see right now it's about 6 or 7-0, depending on how you want to count it. So right now, nobody at all is in the mindset of wanting peace talks with the Russians. And you can see here, people aren't very reluctant about saying this kind of stuff or acting like they're afraid to say something else. These people are very outright and open about their idea, very strongly opinionated, that there should be no peace talks, and in the current conditions, the war must continue.
А тут, видишь, получается, что мнение у всех одно.
А я была уверена, что все скажут одно и то же. Даже если мы сейчас по улице будем ходить, еще 348 тысяч человек опросим,
все
то
говорят
все скажут
примерно
одно и то же. Ваше мнение? Мир с Россией вы хотите?
Нет, конечно. Какой же может быть мир, когда столько людей погибло? Ну какой мир может быть?
Ну, чтобы сейчас,
Вообще.
допустим, прошли мирные переговоры, чтобы там отдать Крым, отдать Донбасс, отдать Херсон,
Все
и чтобы
забрать,
был мир.
полностью надо все забирать, полностью.
Ну там
Даже
еще непонятно,
речи
что с
нет.
Запорожьем делать. Они же Запорожецкую область тоже свои...
Тут даже и речи нет, надо все забирать полностью. Не то, что там и Крым, и все надо забирать.
То есть пусть нам тут женщины говорили, что согласны сидеть там без света, без воды, там терпеть там все лишения, но лишь бы все-таки до победы.
Да,
там,
я тоже за это, да. Да.
А скажите, а вот если будут писать, что это украинцы говорят, потому что они боятся на камеру, что вы можете таким людям сказать?
В каком смысле украинцы?
Ну, в смысле, что?
Мы украинцы,
Ну,
мы...
я боятся говорить правду, и
Да
поэтому...
нет, я вот на русском разговариваю, хоть я украинка, я всю жизнь училась в русской школе, и никто мне слова не сказал, что я говорю на русском. У меня папа украинец, мама русская, поэтому я наполовину русская. Но я все равно, я Украину очень люблю, и я только за то, чтобы Украина была Украиной, а они пусть себе сами там.
Подальше.
Да.
7-0.
Честно.
Ну,
Хоть
понятно.
у меня больше половины родственников в России, но я ненавижу их.
А вы с ними общаетесь?
Нет. ни
Вообще?
с кем.
Да?
У меня-
А вы перестали общаться после 24 февраля?
Нет, мы вообще как-то так вот оно сразу ушло, мы с ними вообще не общались. Еще и до, и после,
И во время?
мама когда умерла, и мы перестали общаться вообще с родственниками. У них наши адреса есть.
И телефон.
Да,
Захотят,
да,
напишут.
да.
Началась
Но не
война,
пишут.
никто не звонил, не
Нет,
писал.
вообще не.
То есть не интересовались,
Нет.
живы, не живы?
Нет, нет,
По барабану,
нет,
да?
И
Первого года,
по-любому добро должно победить зло, по-любому. Потому что столько погибло людей, вы что? И что, сейчас вот так просто все это... И Крым тоже все надо забирать полностью. Крым наш был и будет, и вообще, я не знаю, надо отвоевывать. Уже 8 месяцев, как говорится, мы уже воюем. И что, отдать вот это все им опять? Они же сейчас заберут, вот, оставят под собой Херсон, оставят Запорожье. Через год-два они опять пойдут в войну, они же не успокоятся, пока не дойдут до Приднестровья. Они же смотрите, что с Николаевым делают. Они же Николаев полностью разбомбили. Там Николаев уже страшно на него смотреть.
Если бы Путин подписал мирный договор, вы думаете, он бы его стал соблюдать? Или мы бы остались
Да
в
он
дураках?
брехун. Это врун, который вообще, вот сколько смотрю на ютубе и
Hey, she watches our channel. Hey.
в новостях смотрю, это ж такие брехуны. Вот сегодня на новости смотрю, Путин говорит, мы ни на кого не нападали, мы никого не это. Как же не нападали, у нас 8 месяцев вы нас бомбите. Вы уже все города, уже нет ни одного города, которого вы не разбомбили. Брехуны.
А почему вот люди им верят в таком количестве?
Люди зомбированы полностью, 30 лет их зомбировали.
Скажите, вот по поводу мирных переговоров, у вас есть вообще в вашем кругу хоть один знакомый, который бы это мог поддерживать? Думаю...
Нет, у меня полностью все мое окружение, все мои, все знакомые, даже у меня сколько много русских знакомых, и они все за Украину. Хоть они сами оттуда, они тут кто по работе приехал, кто замуж вышел. И они полностью, они даже тут не прописаны, но они все равно, они даже вот еще там русские, но живут тут. Они полностью за Украину. Они даже, они тут жили, они видят, что тут творится. Они же видят, что и как.
А как вы думаете?
Как нас обстреливают, это же все видят.
Как вы думаете, если мы сейчас опросим там 10 тысяч человек, мы найдем
наверное,
хоть одного, который
одного.
скажет,
Навряд
типа,
ли.
давайте. Мне тоже так кажется,
Навряд ли,
правда?
девочки.
Мы не найдем никого. Понятно, спасибо.
Спасибо,
Дело
Наташа.
в том, что я даже не знаю, все равно добро должно победить зло. Ну не может быть такое. Я уже просто устала плакать, честно.
Не надо плакать,
Неужели
не надо,
вот это мы не
не надо расстраиваться, Таша, мы должны быть сильные. Вы что?
Победим обязательно.
Мы должны быть сильные.
Должны победить.
Я у вас пижамку купила, она очень
Спасибо.
теплая, кстати, я вам
Спасибо
хочу
большое.
сказать.
At the end of the video, this lady was like, "Hey, by the way, I bought your Bugs Bunny pajamas back there. They were quite nice, actually, high quality merch." I like that. And of course, 7 people were interviewed in this video, and it was 7-0. Not a single one of them even said, under any circumstances right now, that they would want peace talks to begin. And while this isn't a definitive poll, polling tens of thousands of Ukrainians, the idea is very clear. And it shows something that 1420 cannot even show, which is a unanimous opinion on a video. In 1420's videos, you'll see a mix in Russia. People who do support the war and don't really support the war. Here in this video, you see nothing but Ukrainians who support the war and want it to keep going until they're able to reclaim the Donbass, Crimea, and every other occupied part of the country. I think this is something that was very important to show today, considering that the missile attacks are once again attacking key infrastructure and knocking out power and water, and some people, even on this channel, come through and go, oh, they have to give up eventually. You know, there's just, they just can't keep going. And, you know, and then other people like Bearish Bull say, well, they are also corrupt. And, you know, I was actually telling this to Matthew before the stream. If the Ukrainians were corrupt, how come they're able to obliterate the Russians every single day and make them look like fools? If they were as corrupt as a lot of these propagandists and bots want us to think, how come they're able to fold the mighty Russian army, the second best in the world, only second to the United States, so easily each and every day? It's because the corruption, while there, it's not that bad.
I will say, yeah, not that bad is definitely the better way to say it, because every country has corruption, but the bots are saying it specifically to discredit everything Ukraine is doing. Corruption is a problem everywhere, and it is in Ukraine, but it has nothing to do with, you know, Russia invading a sovereign country.
And that's true. And so with that, we're going to be moving on from this clip, but I wanted to show y'all this so that way y'all could actually see, instead of us constantly looking into Russia and seeing what they're thinking, what are the Ukrainians really thinking out of this entire situation and the people we're supporting. And it looks like all of them want the war to continue, and that's why I'm never going to back down from saying the war should not continue. It should continue until the Ukrainians are able to either reclaim everything or until nuclear war is right on the brink of occurring, and then maybe then we'll try and get around to peace talks, or we'll have to make a decision then. Either way. With that, we're going to be moving on from this little clip of news, and of course, pretty interesting. Also, let me shut off the price of lemons per pound. And we're now going to be moving out of Kyiv and on into our location unknowns, which we've had some fairly interesting ones, to say the least, today. Starting off with our first one of an anti-tank mine in action and showing us what it's capable of. Now, an interesting thing that kind of always comes up when we get to the location unknowns is the polls, and I've seen that tonight a load of y'all have been voting on this poll. It seems like a lot of y'all are backing up one specific idea. 57% of y'all have voted on it out of 1,300 of y'all. So real quick, Matthew, guide us through this poll and tell us what everyone's thinking and what we're talking about.
All right. So on the poll that is currently up, the question is, if Russia would negotiate sensibly, would it be best for Ukraine to do so while continuing to fight? 57% say no, negotiations are pointless. 26% said maybe if preconditions are met. 6% said undecided, and 11% said yes, diplomacy is preferable. Now, I was alerted by Hoodoo, Texas, that some of y'all might have not caught on to the condition on the question. If Russia would negotiate sensibly, so we're presuming that they changed their current strategy of being very dishonest and they decide to suddenly become honest in a perfect world. So this was the results. So I've got to say that to me, diplomacy is always preferable. We know that Russia is definitely in the wrong for invading Ukraine, but at the same time, I would never take the position that negotiations should be totally ruled out. If Russia were to change their mind and start going sensible, I would definitely engage in negotiations, but I would not stop or let up on the fighting. I would keep going until a solution was met, and if none was met, I'll just keep fighting. But it never hurts to negotiate. It cannot hurt. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say I would agree with that. The problem, however, is that for talks to begin, Putin is saying that the Ukrainian military has to immediately demilitarize, and they have to give up their claims on Crimea and the Donbass for negotiations to even commence. And so, and of course, this is asking if they negotiate sensibly, but one thing we've seen and one thing that we know is that the Russians will never, at least right now, at least during this current year, which only has about 2 days left to it, interestingly enough, they will not negotiate reasonably. And that's one thing that we can always count on for now. And so, going off of that, I would say negotiations are completely pointless because you would have to pretty much unconditionally surrender to even get to the peace talks. If they were to negotiate sensibly, I would say that diplomacy would be preferable in that instance. And but it's still a question of what would the negotiations achieve? Because if the Russians are holding on to land, we know one thing: they will be adamant in those negotiations that they continue to hold on to it. The occupied areas of Kherson, Zaporizhia, Donetsk, and Luhansk, they would probably try and keep. They would also always make sure that Crimea would remain theirs. The only way that would not happen is if the Ukrainians physically took it by force, and then the peace negotiations began then. In my honest opinion, if we had a concept that the Russians would negotiate sensibly in the future and actually come up with amiable terms, I would do this. This would be my course of action. I would either, with the current frontline situation, start a Ukrainian counterattack towards the directions of Melitopol to either split the front lines in two, or towards Svatove to threaten the northern flank of the Russian forces near Lysychansk and Luhansk. And then, right when that offensive wraps up, I would then say, would you like to talk? Because at that point, you have the Russians in a very vulnerable position. They are being threatened in Luhansk and Lysychansk, or their front lines have been split in two, and we're now looking at something similar to General Sherman's March to the Sea, and it's only a matter of time before the Kherson Oblast, the occupied area, and Crimea will fall due to a lack of supplies and everything else. And so they would go into the peace talks then with that idea of, we cannot really stop them now. There is a massive breach in our lines that cannot be fixed. They're currently still pushing and breaking through, and of course you would have to keep the offensive alive even during the peace talks, because if you stopped in a place like Starobilsk, or if you stopped in Melitopol and then waited for the peace talks to end, the Russians would use that time to prepare defenses if the peace talks were to fall apart. So you would have to keep the offensives going and keep some kind of energy underway, like retaking the Energodar ZMPP power plant, or moving on down towards the area of Dzhankoy. You would have to do something like that. You would have to always keep the pressure going, even during the peace negotiations, to show maybe they can get something out of it. Maybe the Ukrainians could say, the Black Sea Fleet will have port rights in Sevastopol still, but we're getting Crimea back. Although that would start a whole bunch of problems with them getting into NATO and the European Union, because the Black Sea Fleet would still be in Crimea, so that really wouldn't be a term as well. That would be a whole other hurdle that they'd have to overcome. But in my opinion, with the way things are going right now, negotiations are completely pointless. And if they did negotiate sensibly, you would have to add to those negotiations, the lead up to them, a hardcore offensive that would be breaking through Russian lines at rapid paces, and then exploiting these breakthroughs as quickly as possible. And so with that,
Enforcer, I would have to counter you with this. Even though negotiation may not produce any like fruitful results as in getting Russia out, one benefit that's never really considered is you can learn a lot of stuff about your opponent simply from a negotiation. You can sort of gauge the Russian government's position by simply having a Ukrainian negotiator and a Russian negotiator sit down at the same table and talk, and they can kind of get a clue about how Russia's actually doing just based on asking simple questions and talking. Of course, they're going to lie, but you can sometimes pick up when people are lying, and you can kind of get a little intel from that.
I suppose you could. But also, we know one thing. You know, the Russians live in a fake world. You know, a lot of the people at the very top of the Russian chain of command, and I guess you could say the people in Putin's inner circle, they all think it's going well, even with it going terribly. And they believe that, and they keep on telling people that. They keep on working off of that assumption. So if they came to the negotiating table, they would have almost this fake air. It would be an unbelievable sight to see, because while everything's falling apart on the front lines, they would walk into that negotiating room with the confidence that the war would be won in a matter of a week still. And nothing could be done, because they would be in that mindset, because either they're being lied to when they're getting briefed on the situation, or they've kidded their own selves so much that they can't even believe that things are going so badly. So I don't know. In my opinion, I honestly feel like negotiations are completely pointless right now, and the Ukrainians should continue to pursue counteroffensives and the defense of Bakhmut to retake the ground, and then enter peace negotiations, either at the gates of Crimea or once they've retaken it all. And so with that, I hope that answers the poll fairly well, and I know we have a couple of others, so let's get on to the other one. And I can see that this one's become very heated in the live chat. So with that, we are on to the next one.
And one thing I'll have to add on this is the United States has never taken the position that we are never going to negotiate, except in the Middle East. We took the position a while back that we will never negotiate with terrorists, and guess how that's gone? We've ended up negotiating with terrorists anyway. Well, it is simply impossible to get away with not negotiating. So I have to strongly disagree with that. It makes people look almost insensible not to be willing to negotiate. I understand right now the situation is a little bit different because Russia simply won't agree to basic terms to start negotiations. But in the future, if they were, it would make Ukraine look very, very, very hard-headed if they were not willing to negotiate.
Well, that's not necessarily true. We laid out to both the Germans and the Japanese in the Second World War that the only thing we would accept is unconditional surrender.
But we did go to the negotiating table, though.
No, the only time we went to the negotiating table was when the Nazi Germans had collapsed, and Karl Dönitz was really the only person left in the Nazi party. And we only went into negotiations with Japan once they had unconditionally surrendered. And at that point, it's not really negotiations; it's more so, here are the terms, sign on this dotted line, and that's it. There's no discussion, there's no negotiations. That's the end of it. It's either my way or the highway. There's no give or take or anything similar. And also, we nuked the Japanese twice before we even went to the negotiating table, to get them into the unconditional
I think we had talks beforehand with them before we ended up nuking them. I think they said screw off, and that's when we nuked them.
Let's check that. Did we ever negotiate with the Japanese in World War II? Let's see, the U.S. and Japanese began negotiations to end sanctions and make peace, but their efforts were unsuccessful, and that was about the 1941 embargo before the war. So, let's see.
I mean, see, even in that instance, we could have taken the position that we were not going to negotiate with a country that we thought was acting in an evil way. But we did, because diplomacy is always a good start. You have to back up your diplomacy with force, obviously, and Ukraine should continue to do so. But I would never, ever take the position that negotiations are totally out of the picture. That makes it look to people that are not supporting Ukraine. It makes them even more entrenched in their positions not to support them. It makes them think that they're pig-headed.
Well, I guess we'll just have to agree to disagree on that one. But with that, let's get on to the next poll.
All right, so the next poll said, can you do a better push-up than Ramzan Kadyrov? It looks like 67% said yes without question, 15% said not sure, it's been a while, and 18% said no, I probably cannot. And once again, I applaud everyone's honesty, because it looks like about 30-something% said that maybe not or they couldn't. So for me, I'm still young, I'm still pretty fit actually. I could probably do maybe 10 push-ups if I'm being honest. But Enforcer, what about you?
I could probably do like 3, but I could do them better. They would be 3 proper push-ups. They wouldn't be whatever the hell that was. Now, I could do the ones that Kadyrov was doing until the sun goes down, but real proper push-ups, I could only do probably 3. And I know y'all are like, what? Listen, when you atrophy by sitting here behind a computer all day, every day doing this, you don't really get a lot of time to hit the gym or anything, especially when college starts up and you're trying to make videos in the background as well or run errands. There's just not enough time to stay fit. I just got to sit here and constantly work on something. So with that, I hope that answers that poll fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and this is going to be the final poll of the first segment. And this one says, Belarus claims to have shot down a missile launched from Ukraine. Do you believe this claim by Belarus? 45% said, I don't believe Belarus whatsoever. 32% said, no, it's likely not true. 12% said, not sure and undecided. And 10% said, yes, it might be true. Now, on this issue, I'm going to have to say I learned my lesson from the Poland missile situation. I'm going to say not sure, undecided, because last time I took a stab at it, and it turned out we were both wrong. So, Enforcer, what say you?
I would say reread that poll again. Reread the line.
The question says, Belarus claims to have shot down a missile launched from Ukraine. Do you believe the claim by Belarus?
I don't. I don't believe the claim all too much. Because if it's only one, why was there only one? Wouldn't there be accompanied by several? You know, it wouldn't some of them have hit their target or been going to other locations? It
could have been an accident.
And well, that seems a little odd though, because you know, I don't know. I would if it was a surface-to-air missile like it was with Poland that veered off course and then landed somewhere. How was it being shot down? Because you usually don't have enough prep time to shoot down a surface-to-air missile because they fly, I believe, some of them close to Mach 4, even some of them towards Mach 6. And even if they spin their fuel, I would assume that they're still going close to that speed over a very short distance, and it doesn't really give enough time for air defenses to be able to shoot one down. So if that was the situation, that would be nearly bizarre. If it's what I'm thinking, they're saying that it's probably some kind of a drone, like a Tu-141 or a cruise or a ballistic missile. Why was there only one? Because we've seen that whenever the Ukrainians attack anything aside of Russia, it's usually either 2 targets at once, or it's 1 target with several missiles. And so it doesn't seem to be following any kind of actual trend that's so far been set in this war. And so with that, I hope that answers the poll fairly well, at least in my opinion. And with that, I think we're on to the questions.
And yes, we are. That was our last poll for the first segment. And up first from our super chats, we have a $75 donation from none other than the Duncan VR. Hey! He throws in a record amount of Bamubas. He says, Bamuba and Igor said to Don, give me a kiss. Baba, rough. Why can't we send a cruise missile through Putler's front door? Baba, Igor say, meow, woof, rough, ba. K, I'll Putler now. Baba, blow him up, Baba. Chop off his toes, Baba, ba. Meow. Real quest. How hard is it to get Putler?
I don't think it would be that hard. If someone put in enough effort, they could. It's no question at all. If you send a missile his way, obviously he's not going to survive the missile. But I think if you're trying to do it a normal way that everyone will want to do, that's more low key and not directly killing the head of a state that would probably get you into war, it probably is pretty difficult considering that he's paranoid and everyone's got to stand 50 yards away from him wherever he is doing whatever. So good. Actually, that was an interesting one. Not a lot of animal noises in that one though, Duncan. Like it was actually.
What you mean? He put a ton in there.
Yeah, well, normally it has a lot more than that. It was kind of sparse, but still. I hope that answers the question that was in there fairly well. And thank you so much once again for the support, helping this channel to keep on running, because it's thanks to you all that this is possible. And we're going to put that towards the Igor Fund and help us keep on saying Igor. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well, Duncan. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a $50 super chat from Lewis Brown, who says, never give out your exact birth date. Totally not today. He says, here's my 50th birthday present for you from me, here in the People's Democratic Republic of Kotadi.
I thought you were about to say Korea. I was going to be like, what? I was going to be like, hey, wait a minute.
I was about to say, wait a minute, they have internet? Oh, nani.
I'm going to start playing No Motherland Without You immediately. You know, the song that they play in every single documentary about North Korea?
Yes.
They have a theme park. Let's go there. Anyways, I thank you so much for the support, and also, happy 50th birthday. You've reached half a century old. That is quite old. But not that old. A lot of people are living into their hundreds these days, so, well, not really that many. Most of them into the 80s, but still, that is quite old. And happy birthday, and congratulations on living so long, hopefully without a lot of health problems. Also, thank you for giving me a present on your birthday. We were trying to give you a present by running the stream. It seems that you have completely parried our stream by giving us support. But I still got to thank you so much nonetheless for the support. It helps this channel out greatly, and it helps this thing to keep on running. So thank you so much once again. And also, happy 50th birthday. I hope you're having a fun one today, and I hope this is either topping it off or it's a part of your birthday that you're having fun with. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope we addressed that comment fairly well. And we are now on to the last one of the segment before we get to the location unknown news.
All right, and this one goes to Gavin Enright, who puts in a $30 donation and says, transitions from Brotherhood of America, Enforcer, Matt, and Enforcer, it's urgent. Something big is coming on January 6th. Something my parents would call a financial mistake, but we call it a master investment. Slava Ukraine.
And I thank you for the support. Hearing that one certain date, I was like, oh, it's political.
That scared me for a minute.
Yeah, that scared me. I was like, uh-oh. I was like, we're going to have to cut that one. But I do thank you so much for the support. I don't really know what you're talking about because...
maybe he is talking about that.
I don't know, because he's talking about it upcoming year in the next few days. And, you know, that happened, I think, 2 years ago. So... I thank you so much for the support. I don't know what that means. It's a little cryptic, but I guess we'll wait and see if something happens. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And now it's time for us to move on into our location unknowns, because we have some really interesting ones today. First, we can see one of the anti-tank mines that's in operation in Ukraine. It's a TM-83 firing into a piece of armor plate. I'm assuming that's rolled homogeneous. So here's the video. Also, we gotta mute that. But we can see it explode. And here it is in slow-mo. And we can see that the mine fires into the rolled homogeneous steel. It then goes straight through and it explodes on the other side. I'm assuming that's the explosion that the shell is actually making, not it hitting the ground. Very interesting. And also shows how effective it is. You got to remember that this armor plate, this rolled homogeneous plate, is probably the exact same thickness of a T-72's side armor. And so if a T-72 is driving down a road, this thing will explode, blow straight through the side armor, and right into the crew compartment, most likely taking out the tank and the crew with it. So it looks like it's doing pretty good. I like it. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on into the next clip of Location Unknown News, where we can also see a Mars in action. Wait a minute. That doesn't work with this one, Matthew, because it's a Mars. It's not a high Mars, so it doesn't have that little jingle ring to it. It's just a Mars. Yeah, it's kind of sad. But we can see one here in action. Okay, wait a minute. Is that sped up footage, or is that normal speed? Because this thing looks like it's going 80 miles an hour.
It's normal speed.
That is normal speed. Holy moly. Step on the gas, driver. Just starts driving across France. Reaches one side.
Could you imagine if Tony got his hands on that?
Tony! No, Tony! Man, those M270s are just neat. We now see it packing up. Climbing down. Now see it packing up again. That's the end of the video, but once again, a really cool look at what is apparently a French-provided M270. Interesting. Now we did hear that Le Français avec you provided about, I believe, 1 or 2 of these of their own inventory to Ukraine. However, we've never seen a video of it, and this is the first time ever that we saw a French M270 in action. And this is making me wonder if this means that there are more of them than just 1 or 2. And the French have sent more, and there are obviously a higher number of them there, but we haven't heard about that. I'll be interested to know. I'm thinking that this is probably just the 1 or the 2, one of the Mars that are already there, but still very neat to see, and once again showing that the French are backing up a pretty good side, the Ukrainian side, and of course the winning side. because the Mars is there. And so with that, we're moving on into the next clip of Location Unknown News, where we can also see the Ukrainians trying to maintain some of these foreign guns, which appears to be a little bit of a challenge. But here's the video, once again, courtesy of Radio Free Europe for providing the footage. And so, let me get this up on 540, and here we go. Oh, hang on. The graphics, they're not working.
Приїхали на нас з Естонії, оця іменно, тому що в нас є естонські пушки і італійські. Ця іменно естонська. У нас вона працює добре поки.
Ви зі своєї скільки ви вистрілили?
Ой, я навіть не скажу, навіть приблизно навіть не скажу. Тому що це у мене гармата вже третя. Бо у мене перша повредилась, друга поламалася, а це третя ще поки безотказно. Ну, на свої, допустим, перед цим я вистріляв 1000 снарядів, на ці вже 1000 з чим-то. Більш 100 подобається. Просто вже я на ній проробив вже, грубо говоря, з 14 по 19 рік, то мені вона якось легше. А з цієї трошки, як поначалу, то було чуть важкувато, але зараз вже за цей період часу мені вже яким став, вже став.
Those were some support arms on that gun. Look at that. Like, dude, these guys were like pushing an entire 1890s farm plow to open up this thing. I was like, wow. You need a traction engine to do this stuff.
Jeez. Oh, I thought I got stuck.
Oh, no, it just fully extended. Now they're loading the gun. Now you can see them firing the gun.
Ці FH-70 із першої партії західної допомоги, вони працюють...
Wait, hang on. I'm sorry. I hate to pause this. But Roman here, he's got nerves of steel because this thing fired and he didn't flinch. A lot of reporters can't do that. This man has got nerves. Look at this guy.
Ці FH-70 із першої
He flinched a little bit. He was trying hard to hold it in.
Just a little bit. He still is delivering the lines perfectly.
З весни, з травня місяця. Власне, ці установки, як і більшість 155-го калібру, як правило, пішли до артилерійських бригад. Це те, що військові між собою називають артилерія старшого начальника.
Якщо так порахувати, більше 15 тисяч на батарею.
Батарея це виходить 4 гармати.
6. Дуже вибагливі. В обслуговуванні треба дуже часто проводити чистку, але точність вражає. Другий постріл, третій постріл лягає точно в ціль. Вже є різниця в розбросі снарядів, вже трошки розліт, бо раніше, як тільки вони до нас прийшли, перший снаряд краще лягав. Зараз ми стараємося впливати на це своїми махінаціями, можна так сказати.
What the hell was that noise after a fire? Did you hear that?
Yeah, I did hear it. That's the sound of the wind that it makes.
Dang.
Yeah, I mean, like it's a whole experience, Matthew. And I know that, you know, I have never even gotten close to firing a cannon of this, well, an artillery piece or anything of this size. But the one time that I was in a reenacting group and I fired a mountain howitzer, which if you all know what that is, it's one of the smallest cannons that really is ever used. When it fired, it made that sound in the air too. It went, and I was like, what in the world? It's like, it's just weird. It's just weird to hear. But anyways, I'll let us hear it again. That's so cool sounding.
Sounds like a screeching eagle or something.
22,5, а Арсена 29 кілометрів. З калібром.
I'll see them loading the gun again.
Чим ближче ми працювали фінськими снарядами, мені вони були трошки кращі. Вони чистили більше канал ствола, і мені точність більше подобалась їхня.
Взагалі з багатьох країн були у вас снаряди 155-ті?
Переважно американські.
Я навіть і не вспомню. Ну, ось до на днях Ми БК взорвали і мінометну батарею. Оце на днях, пару днів назад. Оце саме такі були жирніші. А так, я ж кажу, боєприпаси, склади, ну, танки були, ну це таке.
Без поломок все не буває. Воно все це желізо, як не крутіть, воно не вічне. Все в процесі експлуатації, так зразу ж ніхто нічого не скаже. Все вчимося на своїх помилках, все, що бачимо, стараємося зразу виправляти. Дуже часто так само не б'є капсуль, ще щось, пружинка поламалася, розбирається все повністю. Так само болото. Ну, ми завжди зачохляємо гармати, щоб болото не попадало в казенну частину.
Вона хороша собі в цьому плані. Просто кажу, це треба ж до кожної техніки, кажуть, треба дивитися. Якщо не буде справді, то вона не буде ходити собі нормально. А якщо ти будеш постійно за нею дивитися, то буде і працювати нормально. Просто я ж кажу, все залежить від колективу, який колектив. Коли в тебе вже розрахунок вже в нормальному, збитий в нормальному руслі, то воно буде все йти як часики. Навіть нічого не буде. Воно швидко буде все і ефективно.
Courtesy to Radio Free Europe for providing us with that footage, and a very interesting look at the Estonian guns that have been provided and the kind of maintenance and efforts that the Ukrainians undergo to try and keep them running. Although we didn't see them on film, it is somewhat extensive, and it's also a great sign that the Ukrainians do have a level of professionalism and experience, or I guess you could say commitment, where they do clean these weapons, because we see that the Russians do not do anything similar to any of their weapons, regardless of how nice or high quality they are. Moving on from that and into the next bit of location unknown news, we saw some more Russians get captured today in an unknown location.
Фамилия, отчество.
Образков Леонид Александрович, 4-го.
Why in the world does this guy's beanie look like a ceramic flower pot?
Yeah, it's like got some really strong structure to it to be a beanie.
This man
it's like a top hat beanie.
Yeah, this man had this thing cured at the Hatter shop.
3-го 1981 года рождения.
Место рождения.
Иркутская область, Заларецкий район, поселок Тагна.
Фамилия, отчество.
Frozone! It's Frozone! Wait, no, wait a minute, hang on, man. I got this one. Jordy LaForge. Jordy, report.
Oh, that guy. Oh, boy.
Oh, man.
Уважение Андрей Евгеньевич.
Дата рождения.
11.08.1994.
Место рождения.
Украина, Луганская область, город Алчевск.
Савченко Сергей Валерьевич, 5.08.51 года рождения.
Место рождения.
Место рождения. Город Зимогорец.
This guy's like a ventriloquist.
Also, this guy prepared his lines. You heard the question to the first two guys, and as soon as he got over to him, he didn't even allow him to finish the question. He was like, "I'm from the 5th Unit, 9th Brigade." He's like listing off everything.
Украина.
Украина. Фамилия, имя, отчество.
Ноской Сергей Сергеевич.
Как?
Ноской Сергей Сергеевич.
Дата полного рождения.
12.04. 2001 12.04.
Место рождения.
Украина, Луганская область.
Город.
Поселок Ивановка, Западная 15.
Фамилия, отчество.
Марченко Владимир Витальевич, 28.04.1979.
Место рождения.
Полтавская область, село Кротенки.
Угу. Фамилия, отчество.
Никита Дмитрий Александрович, 27.12.89 года рождения.
Место рождения.
He's gotten this so well rehearsed, he's reciting it in his sleep. His eyes are closed, he's in there. 5th Battalion, 9th Brigade. 3rd Company.
СССР, город Павлодар.
Фамилия, имя, отчество.
Соколов Сергей Алексеевич, 1.08.1971 года.
Место рождения.
Украина, город Луганск.
Фамилия, имя, отчество.
Масленников Алексей Сергеевич, 18.09.1980 год. Город Калуга.
Город Калуга. Фамилия, имя, отчество.
Юдин Александр Евгеньевич.
So real quick, everyone's asking, are these Ukrainian prisoners of war. I don't know who started that. No, these are 14 Russian mobiks captured by the armed forces of Ukraine, and also both sides, whenever they capture prisoners, they usually use the exact same tape they use for identifying markings to cover their eyes, and you can see this is yellow, which means they're Russian prisoners captured by the Ukrainians.
What's the $4,000 thing about?
I was about to bring that up in a second. It looks like there's like a ransom on. I don't know what the $4,000 thing is about, but it's almost like $4,000 for the man on the left. Going once, going twice, sold.
Новгородская область, Боровический район, местечко Селина, дом 90.
Фамилия, имя, отчество.
Andrew Tate?
Oh no. He's been captured. He's in prison.
He's in prison. They finally got him. The Illuminati. Oh. Anyways.
Oh, this guy.
Фамилия, имя, отчество.
He woke up this morning and he got his deepest voice out and he said, "You want to eat at a good restaurant? Eat at Arby's. We have the meats."
And then they moved on to the next guy.
Тихомиров Николай Владимирович, 10.06.83, город Иваново.
Россия?
Да.
Данные пленные передаются в обменный фонд.
Oh, that one has some water.
I have sip.
Oh, they're sharing the water.
Oh, look.
I wouldn't want to share water with that fella.
This guy's having a moment. I don't. What's he doing? He's not saying anything. And they're like,
Let
all
him
right.
this part out.
Назовитесь, пожалуйста. Цыганок Андрей Петрович. 71-го года рождения.
Goodness.
71-го.
It's hard to believe these guys are soldiers.
Yeah, you know, I swear, this guy just looks like a homeless guy. You know,
He
like,
does. He looks like they got him off the street, and they probably did.
No, they probably did. They probably didn't even give him a uniform. They just gave him a half-working gun with no ammo and sent him up there. Man, they have no quality control on these soldiers. They don't even have any kind of, I guess you could say, structure in their uniforms at all. Even like, you know, there's of course variations from uniform to uniform, even in the best militaries in the world, but not to the point you look like a homeless guy on like 9th and 5th Street. You know.
Дальше. Луганская область. Страна? Украина. Все, хорошо. Соответственно...
This guy looks like he's about to say, "I've been hopping Union Pacific trains ever since the beginning of the Depression. I've been looking for work." You got a job?
Пленных передаем по программе Дмитрия и Владимира.
What the hell is
What
this?
is this?
What is this?
A bank account.
We're looking at the finances here. I don't understand though. But then with that's the end of the video, and we can see here the Ukrainians have captured more prisoners, and they are of course of poor quality as usual. Moving on to our next bit of location unknown news, we've also had the Russian casualty report for the day. Holy moly. Or as they say, oh by golly. You can see that they lost another 790 killed today, probably one of the highest numbers we've seen in a while. We've also seen 10 armored personnel carriers destroyed, 15 supply trucks destroyed, a singular tank destroyed today, 5 artillery pieces, 10 drones, 5 MLRSs, and a helicopter. Now that's getting quite up there.
That's crazy.
Insane.
Big silence.
To say the least. I was waiting for you just fine. Because I heard you say, hey, like, you did like some kind of S sound, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, he's going to say something. And then you said nothing. I was like, oh, okay. So, but anyways, the casualties are getting on up there again, and it appears that this may be because either the Ukrainians are pushing towards Kreminna, which they are, or the Russians are trying to push a little bit harder in Bakhmut, and because of that, they're taking higher losses and still not gaining any ground. Either way, the losses speak for themselves, and they're not doing that well again today. Moving on to the next bit of location unknown news, we've also seen an M777 firing. It's a very cool picture. Apparently, this was taken a while ago and finally uploaded to the internet today. And the reason why I wanted to show it is because I've never seen an M777 picture that looks this good. It's just a good-looking M777 picture. It's all bright. It looks nice. I like it. What do you think, Matthew?
I think it looks pretty good. Although I like the other picture that we saw like a few days ago of that the like a side shot of it going off with like dark in the background. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool one too. But I gotta say, this one's on up there for me. I think it's also a pretty nice one as well. And so with that, we're now moving on to our last bit of location unknown news, where we can see a French 155mm artillery piece firing as well. Today is pretty much foreign artillery today, and this right here is the TRF-1, which we've talked about on channel before. So I'm calibrating the gun. Oh. Man, dude, this guy's got a chair and everything.
Where's the chair?
Right here, look. Look, he's sitting down in it. He hops out of it, and the gun fires. Watch. And then he flips the chair back up.
I see why he didn't sit in the chair. That thing went down violently.
Yeah, and I think he would have been shaken, not stirred, if he sat on that chair a little longer. With that, we're moving on from the location unknowns. We're now going to start moving on towards the front lines, where, of course, activity has continued today in the Kreminna area, where we've seen that there was a captured Russian tank, partially damaged, but somewhat in running order. And so here's the video.
Другий. Сулова, 15-го бата 58-й.
And this is exceptional. It is a T-72B3, complete with the side, I guess you could say the side paneling packet things. We don't see those a lot, even at the beginning of the war. And so this one has got to be one of Russia's best tanks left, and they just lost it, and it's now been captured.
В отличном состоянии. РВП работает.
Now see him walking around to the other side, and that's the end of the video. But it's nice to see they got another free T-72B3, a pretty high-end one at this point in the war, free of charge. We're now going to be moving on from the Kreminna area and for a little bit further south down towards the area of Bilorivka, where we also saw Ukrainian soldiers sending Happy New Year's to the people all around.
Хотів би насамперед передати привіт своїй коханій дружині, своїй доньці. Я обов'язково повернуся. Ми разом зустрінемо вже Новий рік. Разом з донечкою, як ми планували, вже всі втрьох поїдемо в Карпати, відпочинемо. Також хочу передати привіт своїм рідним, близьким і також своїм побратимам, хто мене знає і яких я знаю. Ми разом до перемоги.
Oh, that's copyrighted, I know. So I'm going to read it from here forward. I send greetings to all my colleagues, all the armed forces of Ukraine, the Marines, my parents, my grandmother, and uncle. I hope to return home soon. I want to say hello to my parents and friends and to the administration of my company where I work. Thank you for your significant and timely support, and I hope you all also understand my leave of absence at the company. I would like to say hello to my beloved wife, who is waiting for me, and my beloved sons, Yaroslav and Ilya. I want them to wait for them. I want them to wait for me. I send greetings to all my relatives and friends. I want to say a special hello to my relatives in Donetsk. I will be there soon. Oh, he's got the plans. He's got the plans. But with that, that's the end of the video. And I got to say, I got to give it to the one guy who, in the middle of war, he's like, I would like to thank the upper administration of my company, the managers who let me off for this. It's a great opportunity, a wonderful vacation, and I hope that I get the sick leave. Like, this guy, he still got his priorities straight, and he's thinking about that after-war picture. He's like, man, I want that promotion. I want to become the next assistant manager. He's like, I want to thank the administration of the company.
Hopefully he gets it.
Maybe he'll get it. I don't know. I feel like at this point, making a special mention of where he worked in the middle of a war and getting shot at, he ought to get an assistant manager after the war at least. With that, we're now moving on from these Happy New Year addresses somewhere in the Bilorivka area and further down and on into the beginnings of the Bakhmut front. Starting off behind the lines, we saw that a Ka-52 made an emergency landing today and was actually able to land intact. Although we do not have the transcript of what the Russian pilot said inside of the Ka-52, I can summarize it for y'all the best I can. And so, here's the video. Oh, Vadim, we landed successfully. What a save!
Igor.
Igor! Igor! That's like the Ukrainian war version of Khan! You know, it's the same thing, pretty much.
And man, they put the hurt on them.
Chestnuts roasting. Wait a minute, that's out of season now. What's coming up?
Spring cleaning.
Clean up,
Oh.
clean up. Oh, everybody clean up. You know, I wonder if the cameraman's going to walk into that thick black smoke and just inhale all of the toxic fumes that man has ever been able to make in one sniff. By the way, to actually explain what happened here, this is a Ka-52 that landed almost right on the front line. It made an emergency landing, the crew bailed out, and it landed on the Russian side of the line, so the Russians actually took the effort to blow this thing up instead of allowing it to fall into Ukrainian hands, because beyond the engine damage, it was completely intact. So that's the actual story. There were no pilots inside of it, but once again showing the Russians don't have the ability to cover the lines well enough to know that this thing would not fall into Ukrainian hands and be captured and used against them, so they blew it up instead. With that, we're moving on to the next clip of news, closer to the front line, where we saw a very unfortunate incident for two Russians. Two Russians sat in a foxhole. Uh-oh, that's not good. So here's the video. We can see the bomblet already on its way, so you all know where this is going. It's on its way, falling down to the ground. Boom, kabooey. Or chaga chaga, or poof. We can see that they're taking naps. We can now see the next bomb dropping and blowing up some ammunition nearby. And once again, making that foxhole really nice. Fun, to say the least. We have a cleanup in tree line 9. I say cleanup in tree line 9. I think they're sleeping. That's the end of the video, but poof, jugga jugga. And what was the other one? Bada boom.
Yes. Poof and Igor.
And so with that, we are moving on to the next clip. Once again, the drones are doing a great job. And moving further down the front lines and into the Soledar area, we saw a bad Russian tank passing a good Russian tank. Let's figure out which tank is the good one and which one's the bad one. Tell me, Matthew, which one is the good tank and which one's the bad tank in this picture?
It looks like the one that's being filmed from is the good one.
You're wrong. That's the good Russian tank, the burning one, and the bad Russian tank is the one that's still driving around. It will receive, for its naughtiness, a Stugna. Also, what is up with that music? Simnanya. So, well, you can see it driving on. And I love it, Matthew. You know why? This is a typical Russian move. Tank gets blown up from an unidentified object somewhere in miles away. It's time to drive a second tank down the exact same road. Nothing will happen to the second one.
They're going by like they're on safari or something.
Yeah, it's like Disney's Wild Country Safari, where you pass the wrecked like safari car and it's like, ooh, something bad happened to those guys. Hopefully it doesn't happen to us. That's what happened right there. I just wonder when the Russians are going to take down these tacky Christmas decorations like those. I don't know when. They're ugly. But with that, we're moving on to the next clip. And once again, you can see in the Soledar area the Ukrainians are still able to destroy some tanks. And I don't understand why only one tank was shown to be destroyed today on the casualty report, because we actually recorded on video at least 3 tanks, I believe, being destroyed today. So I wonder, you know, we'll have to look into that a little bit. Anyways, moving on from the Soledar area and down into Bakhmut, we got a New Year's celebration in Bakhmut. Although the town is still under attack and in the middle of a front line, Radio Free Europe showed us that that's not stopping the citizens that are left from celebrating New Year's. And so with that, here's the video.
Осколками посекло у Іри, і ми його забрали.
Oh, a shrapnel tree.
Йолочки. Ми розуміємо, що скоро Новий рік, і ми за нього забули. З цим війною,
Someone call up the copyright attorneys. They're going to Radio Free Europe's headquarters right now. A Minnie Mouse has been spotted in the background. It's it. It's over. The war is
wait a minute. Is that Wallace from Wallace and Gromit back there?
Where?
To the right of that very suspicious looking ladybug plushie.
That's a rat, Matthew. That's a
That look like
freaking rat.
Wallace.
No. Also, that ladybug does look kind of creepy. I'm not gonna lie. That thing is just giving me the creeps.
It's looking at Wallace like he might be in trouble.
that thing's sitting over there. Finish the drink. I would not be around that ladybug ever.
Ми за неї забули. І тоді прийшла ідея поставити ялинку. Дуже важливо їм донести, що їх не залишили. Тому що коли вони в підвалах сидять, і білий світ видять тільки коли йдуть щось добути, їжу або воду, то ялинка – це такий психологічный фактор.
Может быть, у кого-то есть красивая звезда, там верхушка такая, может быть. По 2 игрушки каждый вы принесете, и мы все вместе украсим ялинку. Кожен візьме вдома, да, достануть ті іграшки. Вони згадають свої нові роки. Ми даємо людям, ну, це пам'ять. По кругу, по кругу, по кругу, по кругу, по кругу. Є символ незламності, це і є. Розумієте, як би не було, що б не відбувалося, як би тут, але Новий рік ніхто не відміняв. Ні війна, ні русня, ніхто його не відміняв, розумієте, він є. І люди, оцю ялинку, от ми ялинка, да, от воно і є, це і є незламність, розумієте?
В последнее время в украинской прессе Бахмут часто называют крепостью. Это и вправду. Раньше была крепость, большое оборонительное сооружение. Вот мы сейчас едем по городу от одного волонтерского пункта к другому, и на улицах практически нету людей, да их вообще нету, честно говоря.
Є люди? Є люди, так. Тут мешкають люди, так. Тут мешкають.
Так вони тут всюди мешкають.
Всюди мешкають? Ну так, так. Переважно в кожному під'їзді хтось лишився.
Жінка вийшла звідси, там туди до під'їзду. Тому можете запитати.
Mina! Artillery just came down in the distance.
Ви в підвалі живете?
Нет.
Квартира?
Да. Я на 6-м этаже. Надо мной еще женщина живет. На 7-м.
Ничего себе.
Какая мина, это далеко полетела. Что вы это?
Oh,
Dang.
Man. Oh,
Thug life.
man. They just made the reporters look like clowns. They sat there and literally said,
Look at that look in her eyes, too. She's disappointed.
she's like, y'all are sad. Y'all trying to make this a big deal. Like, for some reason, they have, like, the reaction that Floridians have to hurricanes right now. They're like, oh, it's far away. No big deal. You know, the hurricane's on top of us. No big deal. I'm going to go outside. You know, that's almost exactly how they're doing it. Also, someone said someone has a Mike Rowe accent. What?
I think he's talking about me, hopefully.
Well, hopefully. Oh, well, anyways.
Когда свистит, не бойтесь, это не к вам, это мимо. Свою вы не услышите.
Вам ничего не попадало?
Ну как это? Ну вы же
Вот,
видите.
видите?
Сгоревший 7-й, 8-й,
Мой этаж.
обгоревший.
Мы решили остаться. Я патриот своего города.
Ну вот я вижу, веточка есть.
Ну Новый год же скоро.
Да?
И елка есть.
Oh, wow.
Dang, they got a whole food court
This
set
is
up down
nice.
here.
I did not expect that when they walked in here.
Домой буду ходить и наведываться. Хоть там уже все разбито.
Бо якщо люди тут 6 місяців
All they need
сидять
some
під
music.
обстрілами, останні
Yeah, they just
3
need a live
в такому
band.
стані, без світла, без води, без нічого. Можливо, в них є причини, і нам це важко зрозуміти, але треба якийсь створювати соціальний простір, де люди якось взагалі можуть взаємодіяти з цією реальністю, рефлексувати.
So this guy is pretty much explaining to y'all, they're not going to leave, so we created a nightclub for them to bounce the night away. That's pretty much what
Look
he's
on
saying.
the right.
Holy
Look at that.
moly!
Look at that.
Is that beer?
I think so.
Oh my gosh, these people are loaded in more ways than one.
Dang. That is the most beer I've ever seen in one spot.
These people are running a whole bar down here. Goodness.
Так вот живем. Подвал.
Dang.
Родители за нами
They've
приходят.
gotten more. Oh my god.
Oh my
Вот, а
god.
тут мы просто находимся, чтобы дома не быть.
Під ялинку тільки миру. Можливо, я попросила б навіть забуття. Щоб вони забули ті страшні моменти, які в них були, ті страшні епізоди, які їм довелося.
Что вы сказали?
Let me tell you something. That is the best setup I've ever seen of somebody like hanging out in the middle of this war. Those people are living it up down there.
I can't get over it, man. I can't. Yeah, that was a very good eye on your end, Matthew, pointing that out. I didn't notice it. These people are loaded, man. Like if things get really bad, they just have to start cracking open the beers and just start chugging. I mean, that's it.
I see some people saying it's either cases of soup or like canned water. It could be. I can't make out what that logo is.
It's got to be a mainstream thing, though. Let's pull up Ukrainian beer cans. Ukrainian beer cans. Images. Let's see here. I don't see anything that looks to resemble that. Stella Artois, though. It's kind of close. I mean, like, that's getting there a little. Could they all be Stella?
No, it's definitely not Stella Artois.
Let's take another look at him. It's got a heart on it.
It's like in a soda can type deal, so I don't think it's. I would say it's probably not water.
Heart. Balloon.
Ukrainian drinks in cans.
Ukrainian heart cans. So let's see if we can find something like this.
Heart cans. I literally pulled up heart cans.
Ukrainian.
Oh wait, is that it? Is that it right there in the middle? Fresh water and tin can?
That's it. That's it. Actually,
that's it.
It's not water. Beer. It's drinking water. So they're not loaded. They just have a lot of water down there, is all. So kind of let down. We thought those people were actually just raving in the middle of a war, but they got drinking water. So that's good to know that we actually know what that is now, because I was actually thinking for a second that was nothing but booze. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from that little clip, once again showing the life of people in Bakhmut, and courtesy to Radio Free Europe for providing us with that footage. Moving us on into the next clip, we can see an update from Bakhmut, of course, from the soldier that we always get the updates of Bakhmut from. So here's the video. And also, there we go.
Вітання, Україна. Сьогодні 29 грудня.
Actually, this is a different guy.
Ворог завдав потужних ракетних обстрілів території нашої країни з метою знищити енергетичну систему України і вбити бойовий дух, моральний дух цілої нації. Але тим недоміркам вони навіть не розуміють, що вся Україна – це як один Бахмут. Вся нація у нас така. Кожний на своєму місці, кожний робить свою роботу.
До речі, хочемо сказати там сусідам, які з тієї сторони до нас прямують, що медалей за взяття Бахмута не буде. Будуть медалі за взяття Защів.
Oh, dang, look at that line, Matthew. The last part. To say the least. Tarantino? Quentin Tarantino is in the car? Nonsense. I don't believe it.
Там кращі їхні підрозділи прийшов під Бахмут. Вони там лежать, і ті, що прийшли, лежать, і ті, що підуть, там собаки доїдають. Не хочеться таке, мені може навіть і хочеться все таке показувати, але TikTok блокує, не дає можливості. Друзі, якщо коротко, всі роди військ працюють, піхота тримає на нулях за містом, по околицям, за околицям міста. Їхніх атакувальників суїцидальних. Арта підтримує, міномети підтримують. Аеророзвідка, як розвідувальні БПЛА, так і армія, відпрацьовують. Всі на своїх місцях. Не хвилюйтеся. Святкуйте Новий рік. Вірте в Збройні Сили, вірте в Україні. Слава нації!
Oh, there's a translation for that finally.
Yeah, so Wait a minute, that does make sense. Hang on, let's do that real quick just to clear that up. Google
That's
Translate.
a very bad like similarity, but it's good to know what it means.
So nation. Yep.
Nация.
That's it. It means nation in Ukrainian. So if you ever hear a Russian propagandist, because this is something that someone actually brought up on our channel before, it was a bot though, and they tried to go ballistic on it. So they said, "Oh my God, they're Nazis!" No. You see, the word for nation in Ukrainian sounds quite similar, but it means nation, not the same thing. So make sure to keep that in mind. If anyone ever tells you that, just know that's chock full of crap. That's not what it means. And so that's an update from the town of Bakhmut, from one of the soldiers that are still fighting there right now. And with that, we're now going to be moving to a heartwarming end to a story that we covered a while ago in Bakhmut. Some of y'all may remember the boy of Bakhmut, and we covered his story of him living in a basement with his family and showing his burnout apartment and hanging out with some of the soldiers of Ukraine, and it appears that his family has finally decided today that they are going to leave, and the boy is, of course, coming with them. And so we actually get a very nice end to this little story. The kid will no longer be in danger anymore. He will make it out, and he'll be safe. And so here's the last video we'll probably ever see of the boy of Bakhmut.
Стасик, скажи, ти хотів виїхати давно? Тепер ти віриш, що все буде нормально? Все, ти мене ждав? Все, я тебе буду за тобою постійно приглядати. Петя, Стасу телефон. Молився? Стас, я теж молився, щоб все було добре. Ти дуже хороший хлопець. Я думаю, такі діти – це майбутнє нашої України, я вважаю. Стас навіть молився, каже, щоб ми приїхали.
Стас, дядя Петя, телефон йому, він буде знімати тік-ток.
Ти будеш самим известним.
Стас Бахмутський.
Я дуже радий, що ви виїжджаєте.
Ми з тобою на зв'язку.
And right here in the last clip we ever saw of the boy of Bakhmut, we finally learned his name. His name is Stas. S-T-A-S. And we've seen this boy living out his life for the past few weeks in this war-torn town the best he can. He's finally gotten out of there. And I gotta say this, that Ukrainian soldier was completely right. This boy is the future of Ukraine. And kids his age will become the next generation that will lead Ukraine after this war. And so, if anything, let's make Stas famous. Let's let everyone know who Stas was. The boy at Bakhmut, the kid we saw surviving in this war for 3 whole weeks, because he was a pretty calm-nerved kid. He didn't jump when the artillery landed. He had been there for a while. He was probably more of a seasoned veteran than some of the soldiers currently fighting on the front lines right now. And I believe that the kid deserves a lot of credit for being, I guess you could say, a symbol of Bakhmut's perseverance against these tough conditions. And also, he's just a pretty cool kid. And so with that, that's the end of that video, wrapping up the story of Stas, the boy of Bakhmut. And we're now going to be moving on back towards the front lines, where we can see that the battle continues on, and the terror unit committed a counteroffensive in the area recently. And so with that, here's the video.
Стреляем сейчас по цели
I'm gonna have
АГС
to
по
mute it
этим...
for now. But right now we can see a Ukrainian helicopter flying over. We can now see the drones watching the artillery fall, a BMP drive by. We now see the Ukrainian infantry moving forward. We now see the Russians. We now see them getting a Mavic ready to fly. Well, a DJI. I don't think that's a Mavic. It's something much bigger than that. And now we see their cool little intro. And also, just for those of y'all to know, we will have to cut down this footage a little bit because it's 12 minutes long, and our news is already getting a little late due to just how long it takes to cover this news every night. We now see, oh wow,
nice
he's got a
gun.
nice gun. I like it. We're now going to skip forward to the morning hours when the action begins.
4Б4, обзор. Сейчас будут работать танки, мы корректируем. Так, куда прилет? Сейчас? Вот этот последний. Хороший, нехороший?
Oh, more music. Sorry, y'all.
Got the trap remix in the background.
Well, you see the artillery landing as the beats are also landing as well.
I think beats drop, but it's fine.
Well, the beats landing here, man. The beats are landing.
These guys are really well kitted.
Yeah, they are, and they're also seeming to be very coordinated with these drone strikes and the information they're giving each other. And so we're now
Is the terror unit like a specialized unit or something?
Not really. From what I understand, it was kind of a TDF at the start of the war, and has kind of been formed into an actual frontline fighting unit, like a normal infantry unit at this point, with a lot of drone support in it. And that's at least how I'm understanding it, but it may be a little bit different than that. Also, Ronald, you bring up a good point that a lot of people say nowadays in the modern world, but I'm going to have to go back all the way through time to show you something interesting about that.
Is Ronald former military?
I believe so. You know,
I would lay odds on it.
It's the whole thing. It's a rifle. It's not a gun. You know, like it's that deal. I'll go back though, and I'll explain why I say guns, rifles. Weapons.
We had an army instructor that insisted on that as well.
Yes, and I will go back. I know this isn't relevant. It's a thing from the 1400s, but once we speed through this footage a little bit more, I'll explain why I don't really get that. You know, and of course it's what we do. It's what we do and what we say. Well, not we. It's what y'all say now in the military, but a long time ago that would have been totally different. And that's, you know, it's just, anyway, well, I'll get to it in a second, Ronald. I promise you. But anyways, skipping forward a little bit more when you see them using their drones. Pretty much to summarize this entire video, they're just using drone forces on the Russians in the area to hit them as best they can. And they did a pretty good job throughout the video. They actually got a decent amount of them. So we're going to skip forward a little bit more towards the end, where we can see two Russian vehicles moving down the road. Some night vision footage that almost jump scared me for a second. And so with that, that's the end of the video. But once again, a pretty interesting insight to the terror units using their drones in the area around Bakhmut. Now, real quick, Ronald, you actually brought up an interesting point. You said that is a weapon, not a gun. I would have to say the terms gun, weapon, firearm, rifle, for the most part, they're almost interchangeable and really have no difference in meaning. The only thing that gives one more meaning over the other nowadays is the meaning that a lot of people give. Because the first, if you want to call them rifles or whatever you want to call them, that were ever around, and they're not really rifles, you know, that's, and this is why none of it really means anything, was a handgun, and I'll spell this out, handgun, which pretty much just means gun. And these were the first ever, I guess you could say, firearms, or boomsticks, because it really just was a boomstick, that was ever used, ever, in history. And these things were called handguns, which, you know, if you try and translate that as far forward as you can, it pretty much just means gun, or hand cannon. You can see one right here. And so, you know, like, while the modern military...
Wait a minute, real quick, do you also know why they called it a handgun?
Why? Because your hands are gone after you use it.
Yeah, because when the Russians went down and reached for that mine, their hand were gone.
That's true. And also someone saying, also Matthew Snowy House of Trees says, a handgun is not a rifle. I disagree. Back in the day, although this thing doesn't have rifling, this thing was, by all means, a rifle. It was the size of one. It was large enough to be one. A pistol back in the day was actually called an arquebus, if I'm correct. And let me make sure I'm correct on this statement. Nope, I'm actually wrong. According to Wikipedia, and according to the internet, it's actually, I guess you could say, the predecessor to matchlocks. Well, it is a matchlock. It's a matchlock arquebus. I don't really understand much about why we give a lot of precedent to gun terminology these days, because none of it really makes sense, because the terms have been changed so much throughout the past several hundred years that really none of them have any meaning anymore. You could use rifle, gun, weapon, anything really to explain what it is. And that's why I call them guns, because guns are a pretty universal term, and it doesn't sound try hard. Because one thing I always say on this channel, Ronald, I hope you understand, is that I'm never trying to be the guy who just gets obsessed with the words, because once you do that, you've lost it. Like, in my opinion, you've just completely lost it, because now you're getting more focused on your diction than what you're trying to get across. Oh, come on, man, dude. Come on, grow up.
I thought you were about to say something else there for a minute.
No. You're getting more focused on your diction than trying to actually get the point across. And so that's why I never really get into saying the weapon or the firearm. It's a gun, or it's a cannon, or it's an artillery piece. As long as the point's getting across, that's really all that matters to me. But with that, we are going to be moving on.
Pitcam said, Blicky?
What? What is that?
You know, that's what like thugs call a gun. It's a Blicky.
I've never heard that before in my life, but if it gets the point across and someone understands what it is, then I guess that's right. So with that, we're moving on to the next clip further south towards the Opitny area, where we saw the Ukrainians operating a trophy BMP-3. You have to remember, the Russians only had a couple of hundred of these at the start of the war, and so this is actually a pretty interesting find on the Ukrainians' end.
Ця машина досталась нам із Харківщини. Є такий населений пункт Дібрівне, яке ми з моїми військовослужбовцями взяли. Я її бачив ще на моніторі свого штабу, коли знищували ворогів в цьому населеному пункті.
We're going to skip forward a little bit to show you the inside of the BMP-3. Also, I forgot to tell y'all, I've never told y'all this. This tank can, well, this armored personnel carrier can float. And this is a little porthole that's used to propel, I guess you could say, the engine's force, kind of like a jet, what would you call it? What is that thing? It's a modern term for a naval engine that doesn't really use a propeller. What is it called?
An impeller?
No. It's something else. It's like a jet something.
I mean,
Now we see the inside. I believe this is the driver's position.
I was right. It is an impeller. Jet impeller, said Timmy Knock.
What?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's called.
It is a jet. Okay, apparently I was wrong. Apparently it is a jet impeller. Or a jet pump. That's what I was talking about, a jet pump. That was the word I was looking for.
Автоматично. 4 передачі. 2 педалі. Тормоз та газ.
Man, this guy is like the Doug DeMuro of the BMP-3. Let's look at its interesting quirks and features. Oh, man. We're going to skip forward a little bit more to show the rear compartment where the troops are carried.
Попередні ці кулемети повинні бути зафіксовані.
You can obviously tell at one point this was a vehicle owned by the Russians because of how bad of a condition it's in still, although they've cleaned it up a good bit.
Особливо всі звертають увагу на те, наскільки тут більше місця, порівнюючи з попередніми версіями БМП-1 і БМП-2. Двигун вже винесений.
Leanne Scott said, apologize to your brother.
I said, right.
Yeah, sorry, Matthew, sorry.
Oh, thank you.
Ще 2 додаткових місця.
Wait, Matthew, I've just noticed that the small rabbit hole I've gone down and started a philosophical discussion about what weapons, guns, rifles, and everything else is in the chat. I've been watching and I'm like, huh, a lot of people are bringing up interesting points I never thought about.
Some of the contentious topics are the least expected sometimes.
Yeah, thank you, Ronald, for throwing that in, because you actually made a great conversation piece for me and the live chat, and it seems like a lot of people have different opinions on it. It's actually very interesting.
Did you know this vehicle can destroy tanks?
Yeah, it can. It has a 100mm gun, and it can fire, I believe, guided missiles, 100mm guided missiles that have a pretty decent amount of penetration to them, armor penetration. You can see the turret basket right there. It's the thing in red. You can also see where the ammunition for the 100mm gun is stored. You can see it at the bottom. It's in an ammo carousel down there. Right down there. You can see the little cylinders where they are.
This is like one of those Japanese vending machine videos that's silent.
Yeah, it is, kind of. Like, I'm just sitting here watching it kind of in interest, because I've never seen anyone give as thorough a interior look at a BMP-3 before. But anyways, we're going to cut it here, because beyond that is just showing them walking around the outside of the BMP and driving it a little bit, and also firing it. I'll show you all that here at the end. That's the 100mm gun firing. Man, that gun elevates quick. Also, I like how it almost cocks like a shotgun, like a pump action shotgun at the end. Like, I know that's just the gun's recoil and springs and everything, but that still, for some reason, reminds me of a shotgun pumping right here. Like, watch, man, you'll fire, and then it'll just like the whole entire gun just moves forward. That's really cool. I don't know why, but that's super cool.
Cameraman is a brave soul.
And there it goes. Man, that thing's got a whole dump truck in the back. Look at how wide it is. Goodness, man, call this thing the dirt pit, because that thing is a dump truck. I'm thinking, looking like a double wide surprise. But anyways, with that, we're gonna be moving on from that video of the captured BMP-3 and further on down towards our last bit of news in the Bakhmut area, where we saw the Russians also getting hit by artillery again. And we can see that it started off with
that's like my laugh.
That is Matthew's laugh. We can see a... You know, I'm actually going to have to move on from this video, because I just realized something about it. I'll let y'all put together the pieces on that.
Yeah.
Beyond that, there has not been a lot of frontline movement in Bakhmut today. Nothing's actually changed. Moving behind the lines, however, and into the area of Lazove, oddly enough, a Russian tank was destroyed back here. And this was in the middle of winter, right now. I don't know how it was destroyed so far behind the lines, but a drone got back here and coordinated fire onto it. You see them looking down the tree line at all the juicy tanks. We now see one boining. It's on fire! Oh! It blew up. And then Super Action General said, "God!" And I'd have to, oh, the second one's on fire. Sir, they've hit the second tank. Huh? Correctly, board Air Force One now. But anyways, it looks like they are doing quite a good job at knocking these things out, I'd have to say. Oof. These things burn quite nicely, to say the least.
They do. That's an understatement.
To say the least. With that, we're going to be moving on from this little bit of news and on down into the Donetsk area. The only bit of news we got in Donetsk, where we saw some tanks being destroyed in Avdiivka today as well. Also, that music is pretty hype, but I can't play it. So here's the video. Doritos! You can see it right up there, and there it goes back down to the ground. I'd give it a 4-out score. That's the end of the video, but once again, a nice tank blown up in Avdiivka. A good Russian tank it's been turned into, indeed. We're now moving out of the Donetsk area and down into the southern front, where we can also see that a Russian drone got very lucky today, as Ukrainian ground fire just missed it by an inch. They always have to add music. But we can see an explosion down there on the ground, and we can also see that it just got hit. Somehow, the hit was not fatal to the drone, and it's able to continue flying. Actually, I'm sorry, correction. That was actually the streak of the man-pad flying right past it, and it just missed it by about a foot. So, yeah.
Oh, wow.
This one got a little lucky. It looks like this time the Russian drone will survive another day. So with that, we're going to be moving on from the Southern Front. That's all the news we have in the area today. We're going to be moving over to Kherson, where we also saw a Ukrainian kamikaze drone in action. Fun fact, did y'all know that kamikaze means divine wind in Japan? I'm sure everyone knew that. You see it flying in, making dastardly noises, and then the baits dropped, baby. But they got a fuel truck. Wow, acrid. That's the way I describe that smoke, Matthew. Acrid. How would you describe it in one word?
I would say very precise and very spicy.
Very precise and very spicy. That's 5 words, Matthew. That's 5 words. You went over the word limit.
I increased the limit a little bit.
He has changed the rules of the game. But that's the end of the video. Once again, nice to see the Ukrainians are still giving the Russians a tough time down in the Kherson area. To our last clip in the Kherson area, we also saw some grads getting destroyed today as well. Every time the music starts, it's a trip. I don't know where they're getting this stuff from. And it looks like it fired or it got hit, one or the other. Now we now see more grad fire coming down into the tree line. We see a Russian supply truck. It appears to be the unfortunate recipient of a grad. And it was. As they say, poof, jugga jugga. And that's the end of that video. And nice to see that more grads got taken out. It looks like maybe 2 of them. We're now going to be moving on from the Kherson area. Of course, no frontline activity to report of. And moving on up towards the Kreminna area, where we saw another cruise missile got shot down today. Here. Wait a minute, that's the same one. I'm sorry, that's from Kyiv. I'm sorry. I apparently had it twice and threw this one down in the Kreminna area. So we're going to delete that because that's inaccurate. It was actually located to Kyiv later on. So with that, we're now moving all the way back up to Kyiv, a full circle from the very start of our news, to cover the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. And so, without further ado, here is the speech. I've noticed that these addresses have gotten down from about 7 to 8 minutes to about 3.5 minutes consistently now. So with that, here's the video.
Шановні українці, насамперед хочу подякувати нашим бійцям повітряних сил, українській ППО, яка сьогодні успішно відбила чергову російську атаку. Збито 54 ракети, 11 ударних дронів. Відзначились наші воїни по всій Україні. Дякую усім нашим повітряним командуванням. Центр, Південь, Схід і Захід. А особливо ми всі з вами вдячні воїнам 96-ї Київської, 160-ї Одеської, 208-ї Херсонської зенітних ракетних бригад, чиї результати сьогодні найбільші. На жаль, маємо кілька влучань. Наші енергетики, ремонтні бригади протягом дня роблять усе, щоб українці якнайменше відчули наслідки удару терористів. І я дякую усім, хто працює заради відновлення постачання енергії. Станом на цей вечір відключення електрики є у більшості областей України. Особливо складно на Київщині та у столиці, на Львівщині, в Одесі, в області, в Херсоні і області, на Вінниччині і в Закарпатті. Але це не порівняти з тим, що могло би бути, якби не наші героїчні зенітники і ППО. З кожним таким ракетним ударом Росія лише глибше заганяє себе в глухий кут. Ракет у них стає все менше, натомість статус найбільшого терориста у світі ще довго матиме наслідки для Росії та її громадян. І кожна ракета тільки закріплює, що все це має завершитись трибуналом. Саме так і буде. І попри всі удари, щодня держава працює, Офіс, Кабмін, всі працюють. Зокрема, у мене сьогодні були 2 великі наради – економічна, оборонна. Працюємо, щоб у наших захисників було більше можливостей, більше зброї, більше дронів. Ситуація на передовій за добу без суттєвих змін. Найбільш гостра – Бахмут, Солидар. Вся лінія на Донеччині. Ворог не відмовився від божевільної ідеї захопити Донеччину. Тепер вони ставлять собі завдання під Новий рік. Я дякую всім нашим хлопцям, які котрий вже місяць доводять окупантам, що це ми будемо ставити і досягати цілей на своїй землі. Дякую усім, хто захищає український Донбас, усім, хто захищає нашу Харківщину, усім, хто тримає наш південь, хто захищає наш кордон. І, до речі, дякую тим прикордонникам, які разом з усіма силами оборони б'ють ворога на фронті. Дякую бійцям Білгород-Дністровського і Мукачевського прикордонних загонів. Дорогі українці, залишилось 2 дні цього року. Можливо, ворог, ще раз спробує зробити так, щоб Новий рік ми зустрічали у темряві. Можливо, окупанти планують черговими ударами по наших містах змусити нас страждати. Але що б там не планували вони, ми знаємо про себе одне. Ми вистоїмо. Обов'язково. Виженемо їх. Без сумнівів. І вони нестимуть покарання за цю страшну війну. Максимальне. Я дякую всім, хто захищає нашу державу. Дякую всім, хто воює за нашу незалежність. Слава Україні!
Enforcer, real quick, go back to that last frame in the video before you get off of that.
Got you.
Do you notice something new they moved into his office?
And what is that?
Over there on the left, there's a massive telephone with like 1,000 different like manual like contact buttons on it.
I think that's been there.
I don't think so. 'Cause I've always studied everything. I've never seen that.
We'll have to go back and look, but I swear, I think that's been there. I think the new thing though was that little egg down here in the bottom left corner.
Oh yeah, Fabergé egg down there.
Oh yeah, the fabric egg. I like the fabric egg. And so with that,
Rooster's always back there in the background too.
Yeah, that's a. Oh, I can't make that joke. But anyways, pretty nice. Anyways, you're going to be moving on from that, and that is the end of the day 310 news segment. We're about to be beginning the question segment here in a moment. But of course, thank you all so much once again for watching. If you are tuning off right now, I hope you've enjoyed the news tonight. I hope you've gotten a good laugh, and I hope you've been informed on what's happening in the war again today. And I'm highly honored that y'all watched this news segment and found it to be worth your time. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on into the question segment. But first, we have to get to a poll that has led to many discussions in the live chat, many friendships being shattered, and many tears being shed and blood spilled. So Matthew, what is the poll?
Which do you say? 32% say gun, which is the winner. 29% said weapon. 29% said it doesn't matter. And 10% said I have no idea. So for me, I'm going to fall in the category it doesn't matter. If you understand what somebody means by using the word gun or weapon, it works. But unfortunately, what say you?
I would say, in reference to really anything that shoots, I call it a gun. It's a universal term. People will know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about it. But if it's a video of an artillery piece firing, or a tank's cannon firing, or someone firing a rifle, if I say that gun is firing, everyone knows what it is. And so I usually just use gun, but it doesn't really matter. You can say weapon. It kind of gets the same point across. Well, it does get the same point across. I'm not really one to ever get entrenched in having to use specific words on things like that. And that's why I don't really understand the whole thing with the attachment to words and specific things in the modern world, like especially with guns, like people calling semi-automatic guns semi-automatic, and then people calling automatic guns automatic. Because if y'all have been on the stream before, y'all would have seen that a while ago I actually pulled up a old Colt 1911 pistol manual, and back in the day when the 1911 had first come out, they called that thing an automatic. Now we call it a semi-automatic. And so you could really use that term any way you like. You could even call that gun a self-loading gun, and it works. All of them really work depending on the context. And you know, Matthew's about to be like, well, automatic doesn't really work for 1911. It does though, because back when it was originally made, it was self-loading, which was automatic by that time frame's definition. You know, it wasn't going to fire all the bullets for you one after the other just with one pull of the trigger, but it was going to reload the gun entirely for you without you having to either pull the trigger again or pull the trigger really far back for the double action revolver to work. So in that time frame, it was automatic, and that's why I don't really think that naming really means a lot there. And I got to be honest with y'all, I think that's the reason why a lot of laws surrounding guns in the United States, especially the ones that the ATF put out, make no sense because the words almost have no meaning. So the laws end up making really no sense at all. Like, for example, why in the world does removing the stock from my Thompson make it a pistol? That doesn't make any sense because it's still about the length of a rifle. Those are the kind of things that I'm talking about right there. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you, Ronald, for bringing that up. I saw Ronald put in all caps a little while ago. Weapon! And so I think he's still very vehement on weapon. But it's each his own. I'm not trying to dictate what people say around here. That's my whole thing. You can say whatever you want as long as it's getting the point across. And so with that, we are on to the next poll.
All right, and this next poll was put up due to popular demand, and the question is, how many years have you existed? It looks like 44% said 40 to 60 years old, 30% said 60 to 100 years old, 23% said 20 to 40 years old, and only 3% are 0 to 20 years old. So it looks like there aren't too many young whippersnappers on our audience here.
There's not, and statistically, that backs up exactly what our YouTube stats say as well. Y'all all fall within the age bracket that YouTube says, so congratulations. You are our demographic. And you know what's interesting to me, Matthew, is that I see a whole lot more people in public of a younger generation talking about the war in Ukraine and supporting Ukraine and, or either supporting Russia. It seems like the younger people in public are much more engaged in it, yet they spend no time actually getting involved in it or studying anything about it. That's probably the most interesting.
Those young kids just support whatever's most popular at any given time.
Well, I got to be honest with you. I've seen a lot of people also supporting Russia that seem to put no time or effort into understanding why they are. I really think that that newer generations, it seems to be a more prevalent thing as you get closer to ours, which is Generation Z, oddly enough. It seems as though there is more virtue signaling going on as each generation gets closer to ours. That's something I've seen because older people, in between the ages of a lot of our viewers on this channel, in between 40 to 60, they don't really talk about it a lot in public, or at least they don't sit there and make that like a part of their personality. Yet you'll spend the most time watching this channel, which almost covers nothing but the Ukraine war. So it's showing to me there's a lot less virtue signaling going on here and a lot more action, which I think is much more commendable than just virtue signaling, because I know a lot of people in college that sit there and go, oh yeah, I support Ukraine 100%, or they'll go, I think that the Russians are the ones that are the good guys, and I'll go, well, why, to both of them? And really they never really have an answer as to why. It's just like, oh well,
if they were being straight up honest, they would say it comes down to their political party.
Well, that's not necessarily true, but
oh, it is. If they don't have any details about the war, it comes down to their political party. It works every time. That's the way it works.
I don't know, because I have seen some things that go against the grain that will start a political conversation and start throwing things in camps here, and we're not doing that. But moving on from that, you got to be careful with that kind of stuff, man. But anyways,
well, no, that's just the way it works. That's statistically how it works. Like, that's facts.
Well,
if people don't have information, they go off only what they know.
And I don't know about that.
That's not political.
Well, it kind of is, because you're saying that one party doesn't support Ukraine and the other does, but we've seen in Congress both of them.
There's more than two parties.
Okay, all right, but anyways, moving on from that, I would have to say that the demographics just back it up, and I think it's good that a lot of our audience is older, because usually. What I found is that older people are more reasonable and more realistic. But I'm still welcoming people who are my age or even younger in joining in, because I think it's always good to keep people engaged, especially starting off, so that way they can get realistic expectations going on instead of being 40 years old and having no idea how anything works. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. So on to our next poll, and I think that might have been our last one. Let me double check though. Oh no, we had one more, and this one said, have you taken down your Christmas decorations yet? Sort of an off-topic poll, but interesting result. 49% said, no, I haven't gotten to it yet. 40% said I didn't decorate, and 11% said, yes, I'm very quick with it. Now, I'm kind of shocked that 40% did not decorate. That's kind of shocking to me. It looks like 1,000 people voted on that. And also, I can't blame the people that haven't taken it down yet because it's partially laziness and partially I want to keep seeing the Christmas decorations a while because so much work went into putting them up that I'm probably not going to help take them down until probably mid-January. But Enforcer, what say you?
I say it's kind of weird to take down the Christmas decorations immediately after Christmas, so we probably will take them down in mid-July. It's kind of weird though to know that a lot of people didn't decorate at all. We decorate lightly, well, lightly compared to how we used to decorate, but still we decorate a little. Anyways, with that, I hope that addressed the poll fairly well, and with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so that was our last one. So moving on to the super chats once again. Up first, we have a $27 donation from Margaret Hemsley, who says, somehow I can't donate for the fundraiser on fundraiser night. I'm not sure if you could add this donation to the fundraiser. If not, then throw it into the Pipes Fund and take a question from the live chat, please.
And thank you so much for supporting. Was that thrown in Australian dollars?
That might have been. I can't remember.
Because here's something that is very important to know for our Australian and I believe even New Zealand viewers, although that can't be true because I think Mark has actually supported fundraisers in New Zealand dollars and not Canadian dollars. But for Australians specifically, y'all cannot support fundraisers here on YouTube because of some kind of a weird thing going on in between YouTube and Australia where y'all aren't allowed to support nonprofits. I don't understand why, but it's something specific to y'all's region. So unfortunately, that's probably why you cannot donate to the fundraiser. But how much was it again, Matthew?
27.
27. I'll make sure to put that down on a note, and we will put that towards the Sunday fundraiser, because if you wanted that to go towards it, we will. I always have to say this, though, every single time. We cannot do this for everyone who's from Australia, because if you send in like $1,000 to us and say donate that to the nonprofit, YouTube takes $300 of that $1,000, and so we have to put up $1,000 and lose $300 to make sure that we do that completely. So if like people send in thousands of dollars in super chats from Australia wanted us to do that, we may end up starting to get bled dry from that, and we don't want that because, you know, we're trying to stay alive back here. So let me put that down real quick. 27. Let's see, 27 for fundraiser on Sunday. And so we'll put that down, and then we'll put that right there, and then we'll also add a time, which will be 9 o'clock. Yeah. All right, there we go. All right, so we'll make sure to throw that in on Sunday. And with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $25 super chat from Travel ICURN, who says, I tried to do push-ups. I did like 10, but they were actually legit push-ups, LOL. And that's 10 more than our boy Kadyrov could do, so good on you.
Kadyrov couldn't even do one. I mean, like, they can't do it. He can't do a single one. So you're way better off than Kadyrov. I think anyone's better off than Kadyrov with those kinds of push-ups. Those were low quality and an embarrassment to the entirety of Chechnya. And so with that, thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. Also, surprise, as I said, keep the 30%, don't lose money. We don't really get a choice, because if y'all send in the super chat, YouTube automatically, once they send it to us, they deduct 30%. So we can't really opt out of that, because that's also part of our terms and agreements that we signed off with them on a contract. So we just have to deal with it. There is a way around it, you know, like there are ways around it. We could do a Patreon, and there's a huge difference in between my Patreon and how it runs. I do have a Patreon, and it is on my videos that I make, but that's if you want to support video projects. If you like these streams and want them to keep on running, Super Chats is the only way to do that. The Patreon funds are separate. Those are towards videos and things like that, so I can keep doing those. So that doesn't really work that way, and also, that would be a little bit tougher to do for a stream, and also I don't really like the look of it on a stream. And then the other option we could have is to put a link to our PayPal in the description below. But my fear is that people would end up getting scammed by fake grifters that would make a fake account that looked, oh my lord, thank you, Denise. We'll get to that in a second. But we're scared of grifters that would go around and make a fake account like mine, give y'all a fake PayPal address, and then scam y'all, and then there would really be nothing anyone could do. So that's why we don't make a PayPal, and we just eat the 30% that YouTube takes from us, because in the end, everything we do here, even if it ends up being kind of a loss for us, we always want to make sure y'all are safe and not get scammed in the process of anything, whether it be a fundraiser, whether it be supporting us, or anything. And so with that, I hope that answers that fairly well, Surprises. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Alrighty, and up next we have real quick, let me grab one more super chat. I thought I could multitask this time, but my brain is apparently not functioning at full capacity tonight. But anyways, up next we have a $130 super chat from Denise Riches, who did not leave a comment, and it was sent in Australian dollars.
And Denise, what are you doing? What are you doing? You didn't throw in a comment. Oh, man, but I do thank you for the support. That is huge support. It helps this channel to keep on running. And if it wasn't for viewers like you, it truly wouldn't be possible. We are going, since that wasn't assigned to a fund, we are going to put that towards the coffee fund to make sure that we have some nice coffee. Maybe some of that raccoon crap coffee that we saw a while ago. You know, the one where the raccoon eats it, craps it out, and then you brew it. Maybe we'll get some of that.
What's it called? A civet?
I think so. Yeah, it's some kind of weird-looking little raccoon creature. But with that, thank you so much, Denise. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again, and long live the LSA.
Yes, indeed. And up next, we have a $20 super chat from Panama Floyd, who says, I love this whole GTFO attitude. I'll have to check out their channel. Thanks for the link.
And thank you so much for the support. And yes, I do like the GTFO attitude that everyone had in Kyiv during that little interview. It shows that everyone is in solidarity in their plight and the struggle that Ukraine has to push the Russians out, and that there really is no one there that's actually talking about, go to the peace table, I'm cold, or I don't have electricity, or no running water. So with that, I thank you so much once again for the support, Panama Floyd. And I highly recommend that y'all do go and subscribe to the channel, Headshot. We usually try to not bring up other channels on here, but whenever I see one like that that's doing exceptional work like 1420, we've got to promote them because they're doing great, and it's a great service to us, and it provides a whole lot of information to everyone. So with that, I hope that answers the comment fairly well. And also, Matthew, I saw that Drop Bear thing, and they said there's a lot of people getting scammed here as well, so legit people suffer. I love how they say that, although we go through every single step we can to make sure everyone is safe as possible and show it and prove it, unlike other people. You know, like I commend people on YouTube who actually have a level of respect for their viewers and understand that you have to always be battling to get people's trust and always showing people that they can trust you instead of just, you know, willy-nillying things like, you know, support this PayPal and do this and do that, that really has no backup or a surety to anything we always do. And it's always funny to me to see a bot come through and say that, because it's like there are so many people out there, and not just in our category in Ukraine war news, but in every other kind of news that you could say that about, but not us. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a $20 super chat from BC Skyman, and we also have a $20 super chat from Be the Boss, Small Business Success. And it sounds like a very good name. But BC and also Be the Boss, thank you very much for the support. I would like to be the boss someday. But anyways, thank you both for the support. And Enforcer, what say you?
Be the boss? You want all this
small business success?
You want all this responsibility of putting together this stuff? Like that's
no, I don't mean like the boss of the YouTube channel. I mean like the boss of like a business one day.
Oh, well, I mean, one day. But with that, thank you so much to both of y'all, BC Skyman and Success for Small Businesses, for the support. It helps us out a load. And also, you're helping this small business to succeed in a way of reporting this news. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a $20 super chat from Panama Floyd, who says, question, should one of our upcoming fundraisers be for a group that lives in a place with a market that well-stocked and would take fresh food from Bakhmut or Kherson?
Can you reread that one again real quick?
Yes. They said, should one of our upcoming fundraisers be for a group that lives in a place with a market that well-stocked and would take fresh food to Bakhmut or Kherson?
It's a good idea, and I like the concept behind it. However, I don't think there's a specific nonprofit that we can support through YouTube Give and the GuideStar platform that does that. So unfortunately, I think we could try and get close to it, like World Central Kitchen or something similar, but I don't think we could get a nonprofit that does that to the T. But with that, I thank you so much for the support, and I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one is going to go to Super Bunker 9000, who puts in a $20 donation and says, "Love each and every one of you LSA friends. I'm too old to do push-ups, but I can whistle. Chat question, please."
And thank you so much for the support, Super Bunker 9000. For you know what's interesting to me, and I'd love to know this, is that apparently you're too old to do push-ups, but you're into memes enough to know what the cheems is. Or the Keems. I think that's super cool, actually, and I love to know that older people are getting into modern memes, or as we now call it, memology, which is something that the meme world has come up with to describe it. I think that's really cool, and I thank you so much for the support, also being a integral member of not only NAFO, but the Lee Spring Army as well. I don't know which one you pledge allegiance to more. I would assume it would be NAFO, and I wouldn't judge you if it was, because you are like the NAFO guy here on this channel. But I still got to thank you so much for the support, and you are a old guard. I believe he is an old guard member of the Lee Spring Army. You could let us know, Super Bunker. Are you a soldat or an old guard? I would be interested to know. But with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Also, did you know that BC Skyman has like a fully functioning YouTube channel?
Really?
Yeah, he told me to check it out, and I just looked at it because somebody reminded me. He's got some nice cars. My goodness.
Wait a minute, hang on. Can you tell me the channel?
It's literally called just BC Skyman, like his username.
Let me see. How many subscribers does he have?
He has 37, but he deserves a lot more. These are some nice cars.
Oh, look. He shows up as the first thing.
Yeah.
Wow, 67. Dang. Wow, he really does.
Man, he drives them too. He's doing burnouts and stuff. This is crazy. This is my type of content, BC, if you're still around. I think he got off for the night, though.
1964 Buick Skylark. Holy moly. And also he's got
that old Corvette, man, that is just sick.
Also, he's got an SKS. Tell me, BC, if you're watching this later, does yours also have that problem where on the last two bullets in the clip, I guess you could call it, or the magazine, whichever one you want to call it, when you fire that 9th bullet, does the 10th one eject with it when it fires? Because my old Norinco also used to do that, and it annoyed me so much I ended up selling it. I kind of regret that though. But then anyways. Oh my god, a 1962 Corvette?
Yep.
No way! This is actually, wow. He's actually made a lot of videos.
He has, really, he's put some serious work into this.
Man, BC Skyman is living the life. He really is. And so with that, we are on to the next one, but I never even knew that BC Skyman had all of those old collectible cars. Also, by the way, let's see, I was looking at these 1924 Mercedes race car. Let me see if I can pull this up really. Hey, here we go. These old Mercedes race cars, like this Targa Florio, I believe is pronounced. These things are cool. I just think
these are pretty cool. These were straight metal and straight raw V8 power.
You know why back in the day there used to be riding goggles, Matthew?
Because they had no windscreen.
Yeah, so if a rock flew up in your face, you just got blinded. Man,
oh yeah, I know. It's happened before to me, and it sucked. My eye almost got taken out.
Man, racing back then was hardcore. You were risking your life and almost getting blinded, maimed, or dying to race. It was serious business back then. Nowadays it's a lot safer, but this thing is so cool. I really like old cars like this, especially the older racing cars that looked like these. I honestly think, in my opinion, for some reason this is the ideal of racing to me. It's very simple. Although it's also very dangerous because of that, but I just think it's neat. It's the coolest thing ever. Also, Matthew, what in the world was the name of that Auto Union thing? Auto Union.
So I can't remember the exact model name. I think it might be Type C.
Let's see Yeah, here we go. This is the picture I'm talking about. Yeah, it's the Type C. This thing.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That was Audi before they were Audi, by the way. I'm sure a lot of you know that already, though.
Yeah. but man, look at that. They actually still have it at the at one of the Audis in Leipzig. But look at that thing. I mean, not really my favorite of these, but it's still super cool looking. I think these are the neatest.
It's like a sophisticated soapbox car.
It really is, isn't it? I think that's where soapbox cars got their designs, and they never evolved, so they just stuck with it. But super cool nonetheless. Also, the tires on this thing are thick, like really thick. Now, I'm going to show y'all another one that I really like, the 1902 Ford Model Racer. This was before Ford would become a Ford Motor Company. This is something that Henry Ford made himself, is the 1902 Ford Racer.
Ugh.
It literally was just some wheels with an engine. That was it.
Yeah, you could have added a little bit more body work to it, maybe.
Well,
it looks like a chassis that hasn't had like a body put on the top of it.
Well, you got to remember, it's going up against something like an 1898 Benz, and I'll show you what that looks like. That's what it's going up against.
Oh, I'll take that. It's like that.
What are you kidding? I honestly think that the 1902 Racer looks a lot better than the 1898 Benz.
I don't know about that.
This looks like a wagon.
I saw Fuyuma say, look at old and modern Kadyrhovs. I love Kadyrhovs. Those are so cool. And they're so like underappreciated.
Caterhams are super cool. I think they're the only only vehicle of their kind left that has like that open wheel. What is that? What it's called? The open wheel?
Yeah, I believe so. It's like that go-kart style design. And it's one of the last few cars you can actually buy that just like comes in a straight up kit.
Isn't it neat? These things are cool. The British have some pretty neat little novelties going for them. Like the Royal Enfield Motorcycle Company. We've seen some of their motorcycles. They're incredibly small and very underpowered compared to modern motorcycles. Still really cool and have a classic design. This thing is similar, but kind of like in that car world. And I think, honestly, if I had to get one or the other, I'd probably just get this because I already know how to drive, and that thing looks fun. But we're going down a rabbit hole here that's very deep. But it seems like a lot of people are enjoying it. Someone said the Aerial Atom. Let me pull that thing up.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. I like the Aerial Atom. Not really my first choice, but it's pretty nice.
These things...
It's fast as hell.
This thing is pretty neat, but I like the Caterhams a little bit more because it has a classic design, and I'm always one for classics and older styles, but this thing, it does look cool. It looks space age, honestly, like something you would see Elon load up onto a starship to send to Mars. It kind of looks like that.
You want to see the BAC Mono. That's a cooler version.
BAC Mono. Is this thing going to give me mono? Oh, this is really cool. Oh, man. It kind of looks like an F1, you know, with that little head guard thing behind it. That is pretty
It's cool. Like if a Polaris slingshot had two wheels on the back instead of just one. This is what it would look like.
That's pretty neat, actually. I'm not going to lie. Pretty happy to see this. Pretty cool. How much does it cost, though?
Oh, I think it's pretty steep. Like I can't remember, but it's on up there.
$250,000. You could get a Lamborghini for the price of this thing. I think I'd rather get a Lamborghini at that point, to be honest.
But if you're a track enthusiast, this thing will smoke a Lamborghini.
Maybe. I mean,
it's not worth $250,000 though. I can tell you that right now.
Nah, it's not. It's not worth that. Let's see what else. You know, a car I'm really interested in. And I'm probably gonna get ratted on for this one. Is the 1914 or the 1915 Model Ts. A very basic thing, but I'll explain why I'm into them. One, okay, come on, man, give me a minute to explain it. Maybe people will back me up, or they'll just crap on me. I don't know. But this thing is cool, not because of its abilities. Honestly, it's not that great. It kind of sucks. Even at the time, it was just bare bones and very minimal. The reason why I really like these early version Model Ts is for the brass fittings. And second, this car right here would lay out the car industry forever. The Ford company and the Model Ts that they would produce over the next several years from 1914 onwards would define what we have today. Without these cars, nothing else would have been possible, at least in terms of modern consumer cars that really anyone can get. I don't really respect this thing for its performance or anything like that. I really just respect it for its historical value, and for that reason, I really like these things. However, I haven't had the luxury of sitting in one of these things. The chairs are very uncomfortable. It's a very small car. If you're 6'2", you're not going to be able to fit in it, especially getting under the steering wheel, because the steering wheel cannot adjust. You know, it's 1914 after all. They didn't have that yet. So It is very basic to say the least. I would say that really this thing is more comparable to an ATV now than an actual car. But it is still cool for its historical value nonetheless. And also, it was a lie, Matthew. These things did come in more colors than black. You could get them in other colors straight off the assembly line in 1914. You could get it in sky blue like this one.
Oh, that's actually pretty cool. Whenever I look at these vehicles, for some reason I associate them with that show, The Moonshiners or whatever. I think one of them have one. It's just I can't get that out of my head every time I look at it.
I would understand why you don't like it then, because honestly, that's a lame show. But what about this one, Matthew? The 1914 Speedster.
Nah, that's better. I'm just not I'm gonna be straight up. I try to love every car for its uniqueness, but I'm not a fan of the Model Ts.
How dare you? Well, okay, well, how about this? How about this then? How about a 1927 Rolls-Royce? I'll just pull up Rolls-Royce because I know I'll find it. How about this?
Oh, goodness.
Is that cool?
So nice.
Isn't it? I love it in red, though. I think the red looks a lot better.
Oh, my goodness. Look at that matte black one down there. Do you see that in the bottom left corner?
Ooh, yeah.
Oh my
God,
goodness.
Look at that. Now, that is
too much. That's like a mafia person would roll up in that.
Oh, hey, by the way, speaking of mafia, let me pull up a 1920... We'll do 1927 again. Duesenberg. I know I spelled that wrong. 1927 Duesenberg. This is the mafia car. Oh, man, look at that. Dang,
that's so nice. Excuse me.
But look at this thing. I got to tell you, man, I got to be honest with you. The long-nosed cars from the 20s and the 30s really are cool. I don't really like the 30s, though, because they start getting to that streamlined stuff, and I think that was kind of ugly. And also, cars from the 40s are kind of ugly, too. The cars from the 20s that were very long and had very long, I guess you could say, engine bays on them, I think they're super cool looking. And this is definitely one of them. Also, here's a Duesenberg racing car. This is kind of like the quintessential racing car.
Oh, now, real quick, when you get done looking at this one, punch in the Porsche Type 64.
All right, we'll pull that up. Porsche. We turn into a car stream, Type 64. So let's see here.
This is the Porsche Type 64. What some believe is the very first car that Porsche actually ever made, before the war was over, I do believe.
1939, actually.
Yes. Oh, is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I think it's sold for, it's one of these cars that's so rare and things like that, and everybody has all this hype around it. I think it's sold for in the millions. Like, I can't remember. I'd be curious to know what it was. Did it actually sell? Because I see something saying it fails to sell.
Yeah, it says it failed to sell. I can understand why. It's incredibly ugly.
Somebody couldn't afford it after they bid like 60 million on it or something.
Yeah, they're like, sorry, man, I can't actually do that. Ew, it's ugly though. This thing is just hideous. I hate it, honestly. Also, by the way...
Oh, come on.
Okay, listen, man. All right, hear me out. This is an ugly design. Ferdinand Porsche would go on to design even uglier things. Have you heard of the Ferdinand?
No.
Yes. Let me show you. Just hear me out. Okay, he did a little bit of work in the meantime.
Oh, wow.
From job to job. He built this thing called the Ferdinand Tank Destroyer.
Now, Ferdinand had a good mind. What do you mean god awful? What are you talking about?
Man. Like, this thing didn't even work. Like, the transmission disintegrates. The wheel layout is almost unusable. It was so heavy that if it went up an incline, the engine could catch on fire. There was no machine gun. So they had to end up making these curved guns for it to work. Like, I don't know. Listen, man, Porsche went on to make incredible cars as a company. Ferdinand Porsche, I feel like he was tripping some acid or something while he was alive, because I honestly do not like much of the designs that he ever made for anything. And this wouldn't be his only one. Tanks designed by Porsche. Let me just pull up all of them, because a lot of them are even worse. Like, okay, wait a minute, here's a good one. Here's a picture of the Tiger tank that Porsche designed. That was what the Tiger tank would have looked like if it was up to Ferdinand Porsche. That is ugly. And in fact, that's what the Ferdinand was built off of. It was built off of the chassis of the original Tiger.
Really?
Yeah. Oh. Also, it's a falsehood that Porsche ever designed the turrets for the Tiger 2. The Tiger 2 Porsche variant was never attributed to Porsche historically. He never had any involvement in designing either of those. I believe both of those designs came from the Henschel company. Also, one more thing. I'm trying to find it.
Oh, and I have one more thing for you to look up too, by the way, when you're done.
What
I think everybody's going to everybody's going to appreciate it.
We'll skip the whole Porsche tank thing, but what's the last one?
BMW E30 M3.
M30 E3?
It's a M3 E30.
M3 E30.
Oh yes,
This has got to
that
be
red
Matthew's
one.
favorite car.
Oh my goodness! It sold for $250,000. That red one up there, the first one.
Dang,
Oh my goodness.
I couldn't see buying that thing for $250,000.
Nah, couldn't pay $250 for it. But if you could get one for a reasonable price, man, and this is like out of all the cars, I would forgo Ferraris if I could have any car out there and just take this one. I just want one of these.
It's good, but it's not that good to me. Honestly, I'm not.
So it's legendary. Like this thing is like so much history behind it.
I suppose. But with that, we rabbit hole too much. I thank you so much for the support. I hope we addressed that comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. So moving on to our next one, I've sort of procrastinated here while I was rabbit holing. Reorganize the spreadsheet. Up next, we have a $50 super chat from Panama Floyd. X-Racer? Really? Really? I would like to speak with you. But Panama Floyd says, X-Racer here, Enforcer Matt beat me to it on Auto Union and Audi. Pre-World War II race cars had more power than the tire technology could cope with. Now, I'm more of a post-war guy, but those 20s and 30s cars were pretty epic. And I've got to say, I'm exactly with you. I'm definitely a post-war car person myself. I'm not a huge fan of the earlier cars on a rare occasion. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say, Panama Floyd, you're adding to the repertoire of distinguished viewers that we have here. I don't know what kind of racing you did, but that's really cool. We have rocket scientists in here, aerospace engineers, former CEOs. Now we have racers. We have people from the Merchant Marine, like our OG Ellison bosun, Walter, which I know he threw in a super chat. We will get to that later tonight. But very interesting, very cool. Who did you race for? That would be interesting.
He said he's an SCCA amateur. So let's see here. I'm not an expert in like the different racing clubs and things like that.
Sports Car Club of America.
Aha. So which type of vehicles did you race primarily? Let's see here.
He's about to say Ferraris. He's gonna be like Ferraris or something. We're gonna be like, what the hell? But anyways.
Well, there's different classes. You can have like I believe there's like a touring class. There's a super touring. I think there's a prototypes class and there's a formula class as well.
That's interesting. Let us know what that was. I'm very interested, Panama. But I'm honestly someone who's into the early era of cars. Because of course I think that beyond the Model T, there was a lot of cars that had a lot of technological innovations in them that a lot of people don't know about. One car that I will say post-war was pretty cool was the Tucker. The Tucker car. Let me find it. Not the television host. We have a
You should have a model of that, don't you?
We do, actually. It has a very special story. But anyways, the Tucker torpedoes were really cool. I really like those post-war cars. They never took off, though, and I think there was only 50 of these made. They were all prototype models, and then the company went defunct immediately afterwards. And really cool, though, and one of the leading innovations of this car is that when you turn the steering wheel, the center headlight actually turned in the direction you were going. So it's kind of like a modern feature. Pretty cool, actually.
They were ahead of their time then. I was just about to say that.
Yeah, that's super ahead of time. Also, this was one of the first cars in the world also to focus on any kind of road safety. They made this massive cubby hole under the driver's seat where if you saw you were getting into a car wreck, you leaned over. So that way, if, you hit a car, like you leaned over flat onto the bench seat that's in the car. So if you hit someone head on, you would fly into this cubby hole under the, I guess you could say, where your legs were, and you would be technically safe.
Technically.
Yeah, it's not a seatbelt. It's not a seatbelt exactly, but it was getting in the direction of car safety, which would come around a couple of decades after the Tucker torpedoes were even made. I still think this is really cool, though. I have a really special story. I actually got a model of this thing from my granddad about a week before he died. He was a really cool guy, had a lot of cool interests, and he actually saw one of these things in person. So I like it for that reason, just for the nostalgia of it, and also because not only that, he was right, it was a pretty cool car. Anyways, with that, we are going to be moving on to the next one. But thank you so much once again for the support, Panama Floyd, and sharing your experience with us. And also, Matthew, what is improved touring B class?
This means, I think, I might get this wrong or right. Let me know, Panama. I think that means that there's been modifications to the car, as meaning it's improved, and the car is in the touring B class. So it's a VW Rabbit. So that's pretty cool. Let's see here. VW Rabbit. Oh, I like it. I like it.
Wait, let me
see. It's so cool.
Wait, this thing?
I'll click on the images. You'll see better pictures of it.
This thing?
Yes.
That's actually pretty cool. Why does it remind me of a lot of Neva?
Well, I mean, Volkswagen. I mean, it's from the same little sort of area there.
It's a people's car, after all, made for people. Geschenk verlegt. Oh, anyways, with that, on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support, Panama Floyd.
Oh, no. Kanye type beat. But anyway,
get the hell out of here with that.
Anyways, up next we have a $20 super chat from Igor, who says, "Hey, Igor."
Igor!
Who says, "Ukraine has confirmed that Russia shot 69 rockets and Ukraine shot down 54.
Very nice. I wonder how that number will change once the Patriots are introduced, because as we know right now, they're on the way into Ukraine, but they haven't made it there and they haven't been deployed yet. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support and giving us some verified numbers there, because it wasn't close to 100. I actually got a number sometime earlier today that was 100. It was actually 69. Nice. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support.
And up next, we have a $20 super chat from Carson Larimore, who says, "Negotiation with an aggressor is like saying, please stop war, and we will give up land. Zelenskyy has already stated his terms of negotiation. Until then, negotiations are pointless."
And I would agree with that. He's laid out impossible terms for the Ukrainians to meet, and that's why I don't really see negotiations going underway at all, and there's no point even going into them until the terms become reasonable to start off with. Otherwise, you have to unconditionally surrender to get into the peace talks, and by then, there's nothing conditional about them. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, and I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a $20 super chat from Misk77, who says, "For the oldie but goodie car peeps, check out the Elliott Museum in Stuart, Florida. Their website sucks, but Google it and hit the image search. If you're ever in the area, make a day of it. It's worth it."
Where is this in Florida? This is on that big, like, strip of island that is on Cape Canaveral. I don't know if that whole island is called Cape Canaveral. I have a feeling it's not. But that would be interesting now. Anyways, let's check out this car museum.
Oh.
1927 Ford Model T. By this time in the company's history, the Model T in 1927 was so out of date technologically compared to everything else. Ford was looking well behind. Also, they got a Harley motorcycle, a really old one that looks like a bicycle. I think that actually is a bicycle that they just strapped an engine to.
Yes, probably so.
Man, look at this place. Another Harley. Oh yeah, this is one of those electric cars. They actually had electric cars back in the 1910s. Did you know that, Matthew?
Definitely did not know that. What's the range, like 5 miles?
Let's pull it up. The Detroit Electric Model 429. Detroit Electric Model 429. Let me see if we can actually find that. Yeah, here we go. So the Detroit Electric. They would go out.
I like the logo.
Yeah, actually a pretty cool one, honestly. So, to say the least. But let's see about the range here on one of these cars.
The Observer said, it was a motorbike.
A motorcar. I can't... Oh, wait, hang on. Let's just pull it up. Detroit Electric car range. 80 miles on a single charge. How far could a Model...
Oh, they claimed.
How far could a Model T go on a tank of gas? So, back in the day, the average Detroit electric car had about the same range as a Ford Model T on a full tank of gas. So actually really impressive. I didn't think it would even compare, but it was actually really close to being on par with a Model T. I wonder what made them fail. I'm assuming it was probably the cost of producing these things. So let's see.
Maybe so. Oh, wait, it says in popular culture, the Disney cartoon Grandma Duck drives a red car with a license plate number 1902 that appears to be a Detroit Electric. Huh.
Interesting. This is a very interesting little piece of history, and something that a lot of people don't know about is that electric cars actually were around a while ago, but due to improvements in the internal combustion engine realm and not really in the battery realm, and also in the electric motor realm, this thing started to fall behind, it appears, according to a Wikipedia article, and that led to decreased sales and eventually the collapse of the company.
Wait a minute, go back for a minute. I think I saw something kind of interesting on that article. Let's see. Where'd the batteries come from? Were they imported?
I wonder.
Because it says right there something about a Japanese battery company. I don't know if they're saying that they supplied the batteries or not.
Let's see here. The only in response. Let's see. Owned Detroit, who had a pair of Model 6. Wait a minute, hang on. The people who owned these cars were Thomas Edison, Lizzie Borden, which y'all may know, Charles Steinmetz, who unfortunately I've never heard about, Mamie Eisenhower, which would become the wife of President Eisenhower or General Eisenhower, and then John D. Rockefeller Jr.
Rockefeller?
Yeah, Rockefeller.
Wasn't he the oil guy, though?
No, that's his son. Like, well, that's wild. He owned an electric car.
Yeah, it's kind of like, he's not like modern oil CEOs, I can tell you that.
No, he's not. He was in the peasants can have the gas, I'm going to use my electricity. But wild. Wait a minute, oh my god. Henry Ford's wife, Clara Ford, owned one of these.
Oh, traitor.
Talk about loyalty to the company, jeez. But anyways.
Even she didn't like that Model T.
Yeah, she's like, this thing's horrendous. Let's see. Founder of the Japanese battery company, Japanese Storage Battery, imported 2 Detroit electric cars after starting the company. Using his own batteries, he drove them around Tokyo to demonstrate the effectiveness of battery technology. Shimizu used them as a daily driver for 29 years. And this would be so cool to make a video on. If we could find a car like this and make a video, like an entire I could honestly do something like this. You know, like the Funkland does on certain things like the Packer Company. I would love to make a similar video like that, but on this, because this is really cool to me. You drove them around Tokyo. Let's see here. But it doesn't really explain why the company declined and collapsed. It doesn't really give a lot of detail on that here in this article. But a very interesting...
I don't know. Electric cars have never been able to become mainstream for some reason.
Well, they're starting to become mainstream now for the most part. You're seeing a lot more Teslas than we ever have before. A Cadillac?
Yeah, but let's see. I'll pull it up. What is the ownership of electric cars in America? In 2021, U.S. electric vehicle sales reached 3.6% of total car sales.
It is climbing, though.
I would say it's pretty minuscule, and I honestly don't see it ever becoming like 50% or anything like that.
But what is the percent change from the year before that and the year before that? Is it like doubling, or is it just slowly growing? Because, you know, depending on that answer, we may see that this will overtake internal combustion engines soon.
So from, let's see. It's hard to find like a graph or anything. Let's see. They're showing it's accelerating. I'm trying to like interpret this graph. It's very complicated looking. Let's see. Based on the research of this one place, McKinsey and Company, they said that if electric vehicle adoption continues to accelerate, they will likely account for more than half of all passenger car sales by 2030. Let's see. But that's if it continues to accelerate. I don't think it will.
I think it may. If electric cars continue to get cheaper than internal combustion engine cars, and also the price of gas continues to get more expensive, I think we'll probably see people going over to electric cars. just for the fact of the cheapness and the economics of it. But I still think, in my opinion, electric cars have a long way to go. I believe there needs to be a lot of improvement in battery technology and the amount of resources that they use for the amount of charge that they get, and also their range, which sometimes is lacking compared to modern internal combustion engine cars. If they can tackle those two things, which they will in given time, I do believe that electric cars will eventually supersede internal combustion engines, because they are, I guess you could say, more impressive in most angles. The torque, the acceleration, all of those things as well. But anyways, with that, oh wait, hang on, we actually have some information here. I'm sorry, that's just for the year 2021. So anyways,
wait a minute, go back down to that real quick. Let's see. Oh. Wow, these vehicles are actually selling many more than I thought they were in like raw numbers.
Yeah, and this is just
wow. The Audi e-tron sold 2,700. The hell, dang, that's a lot more than I thought they would have sold of that.
And that's just in the third quarter of the year. You know, this is
only 400 Hummer EVs too.
Who the hell buys Hummers anymore?
Oh, well, they have that new electric one now. You know, out of all the vehicles they could have made electric, they chose the most like horrific gas guzzler that ever existed in the gas-powered cars and turned it into an electric car.
That is true. That is true. Very interesting. Let's
see. Oh, Teslas are selling pretty good. Like the Model Y is selling pretty well.
Yeah, and the Model 3 too.
The Porsche Taycan, the way overpriced electric car, only sold 1,300.
And it looks like actually it is a -% change from something like maybe last year. So it looks like the sales are dropping off of the Taycan.
Probably because of the shortages with the batteries and things like that.
Probably. I wouldn't doubt it at all. But with that, thank you so much once again for support, and also the recommendation for that museum. If we ever go down that way, we will make sure to check it out. Maybe we'll even ride the Bright Line down there, because that's starting to come into being, and it's looking very interesting. Very, I'm really looking forward to that. That seems to be neat, and hopefully the future. But anyways, well, the future of American public transport, because it just doesn't even exist down here, and I liked it in Britain. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again for the support.
All right, and up next we have a super chat from Ben, who puts in a $12 donation and says, on day 68, 1 hour and 41 minutes, the enforcer said, that's not a good projection to the world that your Navy can be defeated by a country that doesn't even have a Navy. That's very funny. Put it on a t-shirt or a bumper sticker.
That sounded, thank you for the support. And also, that is a pretty good idea. But that sounds so crazy. You're like, remember on day 79 at the 1 hour and 30 minute mark when you said this? I thought that was pretty funny. Like, that's so weird. We're on day 310. It's like, dang. Like, but I do thank you so much, though, for watching this channel so much that you do go back and watch the old streams. I think that's really cool, and I thank you so much for that. But still, that is really cool and kind of weird sounding at the same time, too. But I do think that is a good idea to put on a shirt. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I think Matthew will start to work on that if possible. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And look at all these horror stories in the chat of people buying electric vehicles and like having to sell them like immediately. I saw somebody say, the Hummer EV's trash, it doesn't work. Somebody said, Try and Take Alaska said, one of my brothers bought an F-150 Lightning and he sold it after the first cold day. It died in 37-mile their junk. That's something else. I know every first generation vehicle is going to have problems, but when they're having devastating problems like that, they're never going to like gain confidence again in people to buy them. And they're very expensive. Like all these electric vehicles, you're paying a premium for something that doesn't give you full capability that gas does.
But I'm going to be honest with you, Matthew. It's not going to be something that dies. This will eventually overtake internal combustion engines. Because remember at the beginning when cars hardly worked and had a lot of issues and would explode on people, and when steam engines would do the same thing and people would go, it will never overtake the horse and buggy, and it will never overtake the steam train, and then eventually they just would. That's
but we had gas that we could simply get out of the ground. It was there. It just needed to be tapped. But electricity, they better hope they're building some more power plants or nuclear facilities or something, because we're going to need a hell of a lot more electricity.
Well, I mean, like that. Well, that's always the thing. Like, you know, it's not like the power grid we have isn't going to stay the way it is forever. If there's more demand for electricity, they will up the ability to produce for that demand. They won't sit there and just go, well, you know, we're starting to have rolling blackouts across most areas of the United States because there's too much draw on the grid. We're not going to build more power plants. They'll go, oh, whoa, that's really bad. That's terrible, especially for the economy. We need to build more power plants. And also, especially considering that nuclear fission is coming around, well, I'm sorry, not nuclear fission, nuclear fusion, if I'm correct, Matthew. Considering that's coming around, and that's something that's actually been proved to be able to produce more electricity, well, more power than it consumes, you know, in 30 years' time, we may see that power production is inconsequential. It just is, you know, and it doesn't really require a lot of thought, a lot of monetary effort, and a lot of space either, or a lot of concentration. So that may be an interesting route forward. I don't know. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one. We got to get on to the next one because it's 12:04, and I bet we probably have like 20 super chats left.
Actually, we have, let's see here. We have about 10 or 12 left. So up next, we have a $10 super chat from Margaret Hemsley, who says, good day, Enforcer and Enforcer Matt, and also Enforcer Corgi. He got a shout out. Finally got paid. So this is for late Christmas present for you all. That was a strange misspelling that autocorrect did there. Personal question, so you don't have to answer. Who is older? Me.
Matthew's
that would be me.
It's not that personal of a question. Matthew is older by 18 months. But and I don't know why I got into exact detail like that, but yeah, he is.
That was pretty precise, actually.
That's very precise. He was actually 18 months old, 3 days and 4 hours. But moving on from that, I thank you so much for the support, and also I thank you so much for keeping this channel running. The way you phrased that, it almost sounded like you were paying for rent, and I assure you, I'm just happy you're here watching. The support is incredible, but never feel pressured that you have to support this channel. If you ever get in rough times, throw us to the wayside and take care of yourself first. But with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well, and also long live the LSA. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat from Lori Hill, who says, Igor.
Igor!
A middle school educator grading students' journals today made me think of you. He wants to be a lawyer to protect civil rights, reading Nothing But the Truth by Avi. And you know, I remember back in the day in middle school when I was thinking about being a lawyer, even back then. And now, let's see here, I'm 10 years older now, and I'm actually now admitted into law school. And for some reason, it doesn't feel like the 10 years were like 10 years for some reason. But yeah, I remember those days. But thank you very much for the support too. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I thank you so much for the support as well. And I think that's actually pretty funny because, like Matthew, I also was pretty much destined to become an attorney since I was born. So, you know, we've been thinking about it for about the same amount of time. And it's weird because now I've been accepted into law school, and interestingly enough, it doesn't really feel like that big of an accomplishment to get accepted into law school, because it's like, it's been something you've been working towards your entire life, that it was almost just like, yeah, it will happen. I will go to law school. And so it's like, oh, finally, I made it. But with that, thank you so much for the support. I hope we addressed that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support, and also sharing that little story with us.
Isn't that weird, like, just thinking about it, like when you're graduating high school, like a short while back, it feels like it was just yesterday, but it was like 4 years ago, that you were kind of like apprehensive about going to college. You weren't sure what it was going to be about. Now that's over with for me, and it felt like nothing. And now I'm moving to law school. Now I'm feeling a little apprehensive about that, thinking, I don't know how this is going to be. Then that's going to pass by, and then you're out of law school. It's just weird how life works. It's just like it all flies by, like, in a sense.
Yeah, it kind of does. One thing that's really weird to me is that it feels like, it kind of feels like it's just so odd, because you don't talk to anyone you know from high school, maybe save one person, but you knew hundreds of people in high school, and now you have nothing to do with them. And, you know, and people would come into high school, you know, like adults that live in the real world, and they would tell you, you know, once you leave high school, you're probably never going to talk to these people again. They really don't matter. And you'd be like, yeah, sure. And then you leave high school and you're like, wow, that's true. You never talk to them again, ever. Like, you know, if you do, it's going to be a rare instance, like 10 years in the future. And I'm like, that's just so bizarre, because you grow up with these people for 12 years of your life and you never talk to them again. It may as well have been like you never knew them. But with that, that is really weird when you think about it, Matthew, with how, like, time passes and stuff like that. Because every once in a while, we actually talk about people we knew from high school, and we'd be like, you know, so-and-so? Yeah, well, they did this. And they'd be like, no way. And you'd be like, yeah, way. And something that's always funny to me is that you know, because a lot of y'all don't know my life, but when I was growing up in high school, I was actually known as, I don't really know what people knew me like. A lot of people knew me as a history nerd. I was the kid that everyone went to get help with their history, schoolwork, like homework and stuff from. I was that kid. But I was also, I think, kind of known as either too much of a jokester or I was known as kind of being weird. I don't, like, it wasn't like weird, like emo weird. It was just weird because I would make sure to carry out my jokes very well, like I do in stream. But I did it all the time, and so people would be like, ah, you know. Anyways, it's kind of weird to think that because that's what they thought I was. And now I'm doing this, you know, and I'm doing quite well at it. And I'm like, I wonder if any of them actually know I do a YouTube channel. Like, that always interests me if anyone's ever found that out from high school or not. And I'm sure many of them haven't, because I don't post that stuff on my social media pages because I don't have social media. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you so much once again for the support.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat once again from Igor, who says Russians fired 69 rockets and Ukrainians shot down 54. And it sounded like somebody just said that a second ago. Didn't Igor say that a minute ago?
I think he did.
Yeah, he did. He sent in 2 super chats, a 20 and a 10 saying that.
And I thank you for the support. And we got to the first time, but thank you so much once again for the additional support and helping us to keep this channel running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, Misk77 said, I got kicked out of history in high school because I didn't give a F. Now I love it. Go figure.
Isn't that funny how that works, Misk? I have always loved history. I really got into it once I got out of high school. And actually, I was so into history in high school that I usually was able to know what the history teachers were saying was wrong. And it was almost all the time. And it really was shocking me how much they would get wrong or how much they would simplify to the point that the history was completely wrong then just because of the oversimplification. That's how much I was into history. Everything else, I could give a crap about. Like math, I sucked at. English, I was good at, but, you know, who cares about English? And then science, you know, that was just a thing. You know, I didn't really care about science that much. But one thing I just cared about was history. All day, all night. That was the one thing I knew. That's the one thing I really only know. And I can tell you about all kinds of other subjects through the lens of history, but I couldn't really get into a lot of detail on specific things like nuclear science or anything like that. I can only tell you how it came to be. But with that, that's still kind of funny.
You know what's really funny is when I was in high school, I was really bad at math, like horrifically bad at it. But somehow I got an A. And you know, when I got to college, what's weird is I was still really bad at it.
What, history?
No, math.
Oh yeah. I was thinking. I was like, no, you weren't. I was like, that's not true. Math, dude.
No, I've made A's in everything, but there's a being good at each subject. I'm not good at math, but somehow I've made A's in all my math classes. If you're good at gaming the education system, I'm not talking about cheating, by the way. I'm talking about just gaming the system, where you know you can do good on certain assignments and bad on others, and still come out with an A. That's basically what I did in math, because I'm still no good at it whatsoever.
And I mean, yeah, that's a pretty good point. Another thing though with classes is I hate busy work. I hate busy work with a passion. And I thought that when I got to college, busy work would be over with. And these classes, a lot of them have nothing but busy work in them, and I don't understand it. I don't understand how I didn't escape it. Because I hate it. Like I hate doing projects where you have to make a poster board. You know, I'm one of these people who are like, I'd rather not make a poster board. I'd rather write a paper on it and just present the paper. I would rather do that instead. I'm just one of those people. And so when busy work comes around, where it's like, it's a Canva. Oh no, it's a, what did they call it, Matthew? A Blackboard discussion, Canva discussion.
Oh yeah. Where you start off every post with, I really appreciate your perspective on the issue, and you proceed to write 150 characters of junk.
Yes. You sit there, I feel that this movie represented life. And then you write all this bull crap, and then you got to go and respond to someone. Wow, thank you. That was a really good input. I really like how you thought about that. And it starts like that every time. I honestly feel like discussions ought to be spontaneous, not be forced. And I hate when they're forced by curriculum. It's meh. And also, Bilbo Jenkins said, you hate busy work, but you want to work in the government? Yeah. Silly me. Anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Oats Air, who says, here to stop by. Wait a minute. Hokey Redneck said it was whiteboard for your kids your age. Oh my god. You said blackboard, you said it was whiteboard.
Wow,
it's killing me.
No, I remember at the other college we went to, Matthew, it was blackboard.
Well, yeah, remember it was black. He's making a joke, I think. He's saying it was whiteboard for kids
yes, you
in
are
his
right.
age, and now it's blackboard for us.
I got to be honest, Matthew. Whenever we ran into blackboards, I really liked blackboards better than whiteboards with the markers. Like, I thought blackboards were just more fun to deal with. You know?
I would like crawl underneath the chair and like try to cover my ears. For some reason, that noise that like chalk makes, like that really bad noise, would send me into like fits. Like it still does. I can't handle that chalk noise.
And I don't think you're talking about scraping chalk, are you, Matthew? You're just talking about.
No, I'm talking about just writing it. I want to start like biting my nails and going bonkers when I hear that noise. It drives me nuts.
I honestly, I'm perfectly fine with it. I actually like it. But anyways, we're on to the next one.
So back to O's Air Super Chat that I interrupted. Sorry about that. They put in a $10 donation and said, here to stop by and take a question from the chat, and Slava LSA and Slava Ukraine.
Thank you so much for the support, Otsera. I hope you enjoyed dropping by. I hope it was a fun little segment while you were here, and we will make sure to get that live chat as well. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so the live chat question goes to Tasman006, who said, Enforcer, I heard from Denny's today, and I think the U.S. are considering giving Ukraine M2 Bradleys 6 months of training and learning how to operate the new equipment. What is your take?
Definitely possible. I believe that Bradleys would be sent before Abrams. They are a little bit cheaper, and I believe they're also a little bit more capable given the current situation. So I would have to back that up. I would say that's largely a true assessment. However, I think it will happen quicker than 6 months, most likely 4. And so with that, I thank you so much once again, Otair, for sponsoring that live chat, and I hope we answered that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one we have is from Peter, who puts in a $10 donation and says that this will only end when the red buttons are pressed and the world that we know will end. Goodness. God foretold that Judgment Day will be upon us. A new world order will rise. I think I'm not like 100% sure, but I think it was the Antichrist returning, or not returning, but the Antichrist showing up, though.
I think it was. But I know that there's about to be a firestorm caused because of this. But I do thank you so much for the support. And can you actually, I don't want to reread again because I know there's about to be a battle here in a second, and I just asked that y'all refrain because
Judgment Day is about to indeed be upon us in the chat.
Whoa, Judgment Day be upon ye. But anyways, thank you once again for the support. I hope we addressed that as best we could, and we are on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Walter A. Lakota Jr., who says, Aloha, Enforcer and Enforcer Matt, and LSA from OG Ellison Boson. 3 topics you don't talk about in the U.S. is politics, religion, and relationships.
Look at that.
We just broke number 2. Say or venture to those, and oh boy, was woozy. Man, Walter, that was the best timed super chat that's ever been put in.
Yes, that was perfectly timed, and that is true. That's why I didn't want to cover that one. Of course, I have my own beliefs, and, you know, I don't know if I made it clear, but I am a Christian. You know, that's just what I am. But I always try and avoid that because I know that if you bring anything up like that, it's going to start a battle. Because even if you're just talking amongst Christians, there are so many different kinds of Christians, and even amongst the same group of Christians, everyone can think so differently that it just starts battles. So that is one thing we try and also skirt around the best we can. And in politics, just for the reason of really it's just a nuisance to me. I would talk about politics if it was sensible and reasonable, but politics in the modern form and how people discuss it is just it's uneventful and doesn't result in much. So with that, I thank you so much for the support, Walter A. Lakota. Those are true. We do not talk about those things. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support.
Right. And up next, we have a $7 super chat from Nigel Curtis, who says, do you think there is a special propaganda trainee course in Russia to take any event and work out the most ridiculous reason for it?
Maybe. I have a feeling there is probably something like that. But the only reason I'm saying
spin doctors, probably like a whole squadron of them.
Probably so. I would actually say there's probably something like that operates in Russia. But the one thing that makes me say probably is that there's funding reasons, funding problems. They don't have a lot of money to fund stuff with, and so I'm having a feeling that it may not exist for that reason. But beyond that, I think it would. And so with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Suze K. Sullivan, who does not leave a comment. But thank you very much, Suze K., for the support and also being around for a very long time. And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Dark Warrior 137, who says, "This will be my last donation until I start my new job. I enjoyed giving you the jokes and mind-blowing fun facts, and be assured I shall return."
And thank you so much for the support. I hope you have fun at the new job. And also, thank you so much once again. You have been throwing in some really interesting facts, some really cool information as well, and I thank you so much for it. You can throw those in the live chat. We'll probably pick them up in the live chat section. Don't ever feel, I don't want anyone to feel, and this is completely serious, that you ever have to throw in a super chat for us to read your stuff off. We always read off live chats at the end of every stream. And I will never not do a stream where that is not the case. You do not have to pay to get involved and to participate in this channel, but sending in the super chat does help it to keep running. So with that, thank you so much for the support. Continue to throw in the interesting facts and tidbits in the live chat if you can. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support. And good luck at the new job.
Indeed. And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Communist Meth, who says, "To Melitopol and then the sea, no peace, no surrender until Crimea is free."
And I would agree. I think that that should be the case. And, you know, I actually caused a little bit of a heated argument here on this channel, or a heated moment, when I said that the Ukrainians will probably have a problem trying to retake Crimea due to the Russian situation, how they view it. I still think, although that problem will probably be inevitable, that they should try and they should start going into Crimea as soon as possible to attempt to retake it, because it is theirs and it does belong to them. However, we'll just have to see how that unfolds with the Russians, because the Russians will probably go absolutely bat crap crazy at that point and pull out all the stops. I think at that point, it wouldn't just be idle threats anymore. It would be serious, and we would probably be looking at the brink of World War. But with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well, and I completely agree with that. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a $5 super chat from JJ Powder, who says, "When do they get their Patriots, and why don't they have more man-pads for bombs or missiles?"
They have as many man-pads as they can. I think they're running out of ammunition for them, or they have a limited supply, and that's why we don't see a lot of them in use. And the Patriot, I don't really know any information about that at this point. It's on its way. We do know that. It's been confirmed. But we don't know if it's in Poland yet, or in Ukraine, or if it's being deployed, or it's being ready to be deployed. We're not really sure on any of that information. So with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that answers both of those questions fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Did you say a bomb pad?
Yes, I did. I screwed up man-pad so bad, said bomb pad. But with that, on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Chip Kerwan, who puts in a $5 donation and says, "The Enforcer Brothers, this kid's financial future begin the marketing of his hat on channel LSA."
What? Wait a minute, what does that mean?
I don't know.
Anyway, but thank you so much for the support.
Something about somebody started the marketing of their hat on this channel, but, you know.
Marketing of the hat. I don't know which hat that is. I don't think we've ever had a hat. And I don't know if anyone
We've never had a hat.
I don't ever know of anyone else who's promoted a hat. But with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
And let's see. The next one is going to go to Super Bunker 9000, who puts in a $5 donation and says, "I want the Igor video, please."
And you know what, Super Bunker? We will see about that. Igor! So with that, thank you so much for the support. I hope that addresses the comment fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
All right. And also, to answer Sunauticus 4, what do you do with all the money you take, or all the money you make from donations? Anything special, or just keep it for yourselves? Enforcer, would you like to take that one really quickly?
Yes, I will answer it. What we do with y'all support, well, what I do in particular with y'all support, because Matthew does get paid, and what he does is his own thing, I don't know. But what I do with it is I take all of y'all's money and I put it into my bank account, and it sits there. Mostly
the super chats specifically.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Whenever we
just to make sure,
whenever we receive y'all super chats, YouTube pays us monthly on those. I put it into a bank account and it sits there. I don't spend much of it. I actually feel very bad whenever I spend any of it because I have plans and I have a future, and that future is law school. And while, I'm working everything out with that, and I'm not going to get into all the details on that, I always want to make sure that there is savings, so that way if I ever had to pay for anything in law school, or when I have to, because it's inevitable, I will have savings to do that. So that's really what I'm doing, and also it's paying for my semesters in college, and everything else involved. So that is what I do whenever y'all support finally makes it to us. Now the fundraiser, always to make it clear, because people will always misconstrue this, because I have to make it clear, the fundraisers, those are managed by YouTube, so I can't touch any of that, and we never receive a dime of that. They go straight to the nonprofits in question. But y'all super chats, of course, those go to us, and that's what I do with it. I just save it. The only thing I can ever think of a size that I've ever gotten is the Tommy gun, which we're still going to make a video on at some point. It's just that it hasn't happened yet, and it's going to be happening probably. The filming's probably going to happen sometime in January. And then the video will probably go up sometime after that. And also Dean said, don't forget to pay taxes. Oh man, that is something really, really important, something that we're always focusing on. But with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, because obviously, everyone always wonders about that. And I just got to be honest with y'all. Y'all support is sent in as appreciation of this, and I would feel very irresponsible if I took that support and just squandered it. Like y'all are giving me the opportunity to actually coalesce my future that I have for myself through y'all support, and to go and get like a supercar, or go spend a whole loads on jewelry or shoes or something like. That just seems dumb. It seems very irresponsible. And so y'all can guarantee it's pretty much all for college and law school. But with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $2 super chat from Dupper Bob, a $2 super chat from Chris Webb, a 2 from Dubsy Dabster, and a 1 from Urban Ghost Hunters. So thank you all for that support, and that rounds out our super chat segment. So it's now time for the live chats. Enforcer, are you ready?
Yes, and also we will be answering live chats until 12:32, so that way we can have a little bit of extra time.
Okay, so up first we have we have the Morse code, who was deciphered tonight by only Mark Hodges. And Mark Hodges says, Enforcer and Enforcer Matt, the Morse message today reads the same as last night's. Russian shoot down more missiles and then cry when they were shot down. Slava Ukraine.
Y'all did get that correct. I really didn't know what to type in there tonight. It was really kind of like a silly message. I feel like it was poorly written. But y'all did get it right. That is the Morse code message. And so congratulations once again for getting that right. And with that, we are on to the next one.
You're right. And up next, we have a question from Wes Fry, who says, Enforcer, what resources could Ukraine capitalize on? Maybe Enforcer knows.
Can you reread that one again?
What resources could Ukraine capitalize on? Maybe Enforcer knows.
There's natural gas, and obviously natural gases and fossil fuels will not be disappearing out of the world economy for the next several decades at least. So they have that to work off of. They also have neon. Neon is something they could work off of, although they're doing that right now, and it's not that big. And of course, there's steel. Steel is a big part of the world. And I'm trying to think. I'm trying to sit here and really think on it. Because you see, the create computer processors, which is where a lot of money in the modern world is in, or automotive manufacturing, where there's also a decent amount of money, you need raw materials. And I know that the Ukrainians have a decent amount of those raw materials available in their country. They can, of course, import from the rest of the world to be able to get that done. It's just that the initial cost of capital there is expensive. And the other thing that they have is manpower. And they have the potential to grow a load. Ukraine is very sparsely populated for its size, and so there's a lot of potential for the population density to grow. And if the population density in Ukraine continues to grow, there is always more human capital there, which can be used to produce more economic capital, more monetary capital. And so if they continue to grow their population instead of having it in decline, and they either bring in a large influx of immigrants or support a massive pretty much population growth campaign, they could get a decent amount of extra manpower that they could use to market to foreign countries around the world and say, hey, bring your money here and bring your factories here. It's really cheap. We can do it well. you grow jobs. And through that, they'll grow their economy. Of course, at the beginning, things will be kind of rough, like you're seeing in China, because they're still in an early phase of economic development. That's why there's really no labor laws there, and that's why everything sucks. And you will probably see something similar to that in Ukraine. But as time would go on, labor laws would be implemented, labor units would become probably a little bit more evolved, ensuring workers' rights. And regardless of your idea of what a labor union is and if it's positive or negative, they will ensure more workers' rights. You'll see it go from an industrialized country to more of a service industry country, kind of like the United States is. And then eventually all of those factories will leave and go elsewhere to wherever it's cheaper. And then the Ukrainians will be left pretty wealthy, but not with a lot of manufacturing industry left. That is probably what the Ukrainians could do, is a growth and development idea. That's usually how it works. But that's only one idea. There's loads of things that the Ukrainians could do. It doesn't just revolve around the natural resources under their ground. It also revolves around the people that they have living inside of their country. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question, the best I can at least. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Linda Vickers, who says, my question is, why are the young men in Moscow not being drafted into the war?
Some of them are, but the main reason they're not is because Moscow is the largest metropolitan area in Russia. I believe it has around 10 million people living in it, 10% of Russia's population. And as long as they keep Moscow happy, nothing really can happen. As long as they keep Moscow and St. Petersburg happy, nothing really will happen governmentally to threaten Russia. Because if anything happens in Moscow, there's so many people living there that revolts and riots could actually start to threaten the central government, because Moscow and St. Petersburg are really all that matters inside of Russia as far as the government's concerned. And so that's probably why they're not conscripting or drafting anyone from inside of Moscow or St. Petersburg, is to try and keep those populations subdued and keep the pressure on other areas of the country that are not the metropolitan areas. So that way, if there are any uprisings, riots, or revolts, they can be put down and it's not going to have an impact on the central government, most likely. That would be my explanation for it. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one, which I believe might be the last one of the night, goes to Bremner's Ghost, who says, now Russia have had to withdraw their bombers out of Ukraine's range. Should Ukraine hit the Volga hydropower grid in revenge for the Russian attacks?
I would say not. It's revenge, yes. I don't think the Ukrainians should do it, because then that will justify the Russians trying to make them look like evil people, and they already try and make them look evil. But that may start to sway some of the people in the middle over towards supporting the war in Russia, because now their power grids would be directly attacked and permanently damaged or destroyed, at least for the duration of the war. So I would say not really for that reason. If it starts to become a strategic reason, for example, if you knock out a decent amount of the power grid in that area, the Russian logistics lines will not be able to operate hardly at all. I would say yes, go ahead and do it. But you would have to have a very solid ground strategically to do something like that. It couldn't just be for revenge. But with that, I hope I answered that question fairly well. Mel Gibson. But anyways, with that, it's time for us to end the stream tonight. I thank you all so much once again for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure running this stream tonight and answering everyone's questions. I also hope you all enjoyed the news segment that was on earlier. And if you did, make sure to hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe, because we run these streams every day of the week except for Mondays. And so with that, have a great night, stay safe, take care, good luck, and I'll see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the war in Ukraine. And also, thank you so much to 1312 UT41TN Anonymous.
Brutality.
Say what?
Brutality.
Interesting. And thank you so much, Brutality, for the $5 super chat, €5 super chat. That will help us out. And with that, I will see you all tomorrow. Good night, good luck, and long live the Lee Spring Army.
Yes. The Lee Spring Army sends its regards.
Слава, ни воля. браття українці, усміхнеться доля. Згинуть наші вороженьки, як роса на сонці. Запануємо ми, браття, у своїй сторонці. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького роду. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу.